some people take objection to it because they tell me that how can you say that one person brought us freedom? You cannot say that. So of course I have never say that, but my problem is that when we say that Netaji brought us freedom, this is basically a response to those who were for last 70 years. And even today, they are giving us a line that "Dedi hame jati bina khadak bina dhal." Subhash Chandra Bose was the first person who joined the ICS and they left it for freedom struggle. Gandhiji, on the other hand, was focused on the rural economy and this charkha and all that thing. So this Subhash Bose thought was of no consequence. The Gandhiji, he said that the aim of my life is to bring peace for the mankind. So any Gandhi Bhakt you catch hold of, be it, especially in the BJP today these days, they'll tell you they're more focused on the world peace. Bhagat Ram Talwar then turned a traitor.
Okay.
And he began whatever information Subhash Chandra Bose sent, secret information, he used to supply it to his handler in British intelligence. But Shah Rukh Khan's father and Bhagat Ram Talwar used to hang around together here. And then nobody knew what this man had done. So they keep abusing, fascist, BJP's fascist and all. So they dislike Hitler like anything. But they never utter a single word about Churchill, who is responsible for killing the Bengalis. And we, the shameless people, accepted that. We should have never accepted 15th of August because the date 15th of August is the date of Subhash Bose's defeat. To say that the government of India, keeping in mind public sentiments, formed an inquiry is nonsense. The government of India was not at all keen to do an inquiry. They were forced. Records of the PN's file, who were working for the Khosta Commission. TA bills की फाइल, अखबार की बिल की फाइलें पड़ी हैं. अच्छा बेटा, चपड़ासियों की फाइलें तो हमने बचा के रखी हुई हैं और टॉप सीक्रेट फाइल को फूंक दिया आप लोगों ने. हमें पागल समझते हैं आप. The entire investigation about Netaji's death is all about going to Taiwan and looking for records. And there are no records. There are records. Some people are trying to confuse it. He said, no, record must have been destroyed. First of all, Japanese never said that we destroyed records. Number one. Number two, records are there. Any Tom, Dick and Harry who died in Taiwan in August 45, his cremation register, his name is there. आपके सामने बैठ करके मैं पूरे भारत सरकार को बातें कर रहा हूँ, मजाक नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं मरूंगा, मैं मर चुका होता 4 साल पहले अगर मैंने झूठ बोल रहा था. ये जितनी बड़ी बड़ी बातें मैं कर रहा हूँ आगे खुल्ला, अगर एक बात भी गलत होती तो आपको लगता है कि मुझे गवर्नमेंट छोड़ती आज तक आगे. जर्नलिस्ट हैव ईगो प्रॉब्लम. दे जर्नलिस्ट हैव वेरी इनफेक्ट ईगोस. दे थिंक दे आर सो बिग, दे टॉक टू मोदी, दे टॉक टू व्हाई शुड दे केयर अबाउट सुभाष. तो जो फन्ने खां जर्नलिस्ट अपने आप को बड़ा जर्नलिस्ट समझते हैं, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा नहीं है, मैं भी पसंद करता हूँ उनको, लेकिन वो मेरे इशू से कन्नी काट रहे हैं बिकॉज दे थिंक दे आर वेरी बिग. इफ यू आर सो बिग, गो एंड टॉक टू मोदी अबाउट नेताजी केस. Go and talk to Amit Shah ji. You take his appointment, sir. I want to interview on the Netaji death case. तुम्हारी हेकड़ी 2 दिन में निकाल देगी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. This is how I reached the Gumnami Baba story. So for me, it's not that I one fine morning I felt that Netaji must be a Baba. I was damn against it. I abused that person. Who for the first time told me about this story. तो आप चौड़े पे डींगे मारे क्योंकि अमेरिकन से बम डाल दिया. तुम्हारी तो औकात लड़ने की, तुम्हारी औकात तो जापानी ने दिखा दी थी. 42 में तो मार के तुम्हारे को भेजा वहाँ पे 90,000 POWs और so that's why the IN was formed.
Hello everyone, my name is Chitresh Kapoor and welcome to Defensive Offense English, your go-to podcast when it comes to matters of national security and defense. Today we are going to talk about a topic which is extremely emotional to the people of Bharat. When we talk about Bharat and when we talk about Jai Hind, what does that phrase mean? What do those two words mean? How did it all start? We're going to talk about all of that. And as young audience that are watching this podcast, all of us have been taught a lie in school that we got our independence through non-violence and bina kadak bina dhal, which let me tell you is all a lie. I've been also taught about that, but we got our independence through one and only one man. And just to give you another example, you would have heard that Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of England. And after that, there was this gentleman called Clement Atley. Now, Clement Atley had come to India in 1956 and he told the then governor of Bengal that it was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and his INA. They were responsible for the freedom of the country. And the non-violence movement and the key people who were driving the non-violence movement, particularly Mahatma Gandhi, their role in Indian independence was minimal. And it is coming directly from the Prime Minister of a country. So there is absolutely no reason why he would have said things differently. And when we're talking about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, we still haven't, solved the mystery of that one man. What happened? While the official documents say that there was a plane crash in August of 1945, but there are 3-4 different stories that are coming. While officially we say that the death happened because of plane crash in August of 1945, there's a different story which says that he was found in Russia. And then there is another story, which is most likely possible that it is true, that he lived beyond 1945 and he spent a considerable amount of time in India and particularly Ayodhya. So he spent a lot of time. So we are now going to talk about Subhash Chandra Bose. We are also going to talk about the man who was 28, 25 years younger than Mahatma Gandhi, and he became the head of Indian National Congress. At that point of time, it was called Just Congress. And he defeated Patabi Sitaramaiah, who was backed by Mahatma Gandhi. So a man who was intelligent enough to beat Mahatma Gandhi, probably the only elections or the only time when somebody actually defeated him. So what happened to Subhash Chandra Bose? Was there a deliberate attempt? Whenever we do talk about independence in all our official channels, we try to avoid that topic. So what happened? Was it intentionally done? The credit of Indian independence is generally given to someone else. So we're going to talk about especially this topic, and we're going to talk to Mr. Anuj Dhar. He has been for the last 20 plus years just talking about this topic. So, Mr. Dhar, welcome to Defensive Offense
Very
English.
happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
I'd like to understand from you, why have you chosen this particular topic? What is the story behind it? And there have been 3 commissions that have happened over the last 50, 70 years. If you could just take me through this whole experience and your background and what it all,
The topic,
how did it all start?
the topic chose me. It's the other way around. So, but I'm very thankful to you that for this wonderful intro. And then I was just thinking when you were talking, you were explaining to your readers the entire backdrop of the case. You can recall that this was not like this for many, many years. In fact, even if you go back 20 years, people would be very hesitant to talk about these facts of history, that India became free because of this person was a main factor and other issues. There was no discussion, nothing was being discussed. Even today, I very much doubt. I have never been to the Doordarshan. I think I've never been to Doordarshan. I've been to all channels, but not Doordarshan. Still, they will not discuss these matters. So still, in a way, that in very formal gatherings and the programs organized by Government of India, you will not be able to talk like this. But thanks to the Americans, they have created this internet and the mobile phones and whatnot, this podcast system. We are able to now talk to a lot of people. So I'm able to talk to people thanks to podcasters like you. The message goes to millions of people. Then I do my own programs, my discussion talks, which take place in all sorts of places, like from IIM to IITs and even to London Business School, and also the all universities in America and other places. So this has been a great change. And so when you were in a way narrating the entire backdrop against which I am now today sitting in front of you, I was kind of thinking of that thing, how things have changed. Now, my coming in this whole story of Subhash Bose's death was accidental. It's not my choice. So it's not that I'm chasing. I didn't start chasing. It was no personal reason as such for me to do so, because I was born in Delhi, and you grow up hearing all kind of things in middle class families. Same was the case with me, and you grow up admiring all the national icons. So I grew up admiring Panditji, Gandhiji, Subhash Bose, Netaji, and Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh. We all admire. We all, when we are growing up, we all have we look up to all these national icons of ours. And so I was like that only. So there was no particular fascination for Netaji initial years, but there was one connection I had with Subhash Bose, an indirect connection, so to speak, and it was that my grandfather was part of British Indian Army.
Okay.
And then I never saw him. I used to see his pictures. I look like him, and I used to talk. Everybody wants to talk about their grandparents, right? So whether you are there, they are there or not, but you talk about, you try to remember, them. So I used to talk, and I was given a story about my grandfather from my family elders, my father and my buas, that they were asked to go and fight the Germans. My grandfather was whatever unit he was, they were asked to go and fight.
So you're talking about British Indian Army.
British Indian Army.
Right.
So they were asked to go and fight the Germans. So my grandfather went to this Africa, and he fought against the Germans. So he got the Africa Star. The medal was given to everybody who was in that theater. I have those medals with me right now. Then he was asked to go and fight the Japanese in Kohima. So when this was happening, or what this happened, people in India, even including those in the armed forces, maybe at the junior level, they had no clue about Subhash Bose and INA, because it was total censorship. In those days there was no such thing as we have. No newspapers or magazines of the sort which were, you had them in the 70s or 80s. So forget about having internet, but you did not even have proper magazines and newspapers in those days, as they were in 1970s and subsequent years. So there was complete censorship on Subhash Bose's activity. So people did not know what was. People had a vague idea that Netaji was in Germany. So they had no clue about that he had actually moved, to Southeast Asia, the submarine voyage, and he had, taken command of the Indian, the Indian National Army. He had formed a new government there. So people were not aware. So my grandfather, the story was he went when they were, and the people, they were asked to go and fight the Japanese in Kohima. So when they reached the battlefront. So the story was given to me that they heard from the other side people speaking through loudspeakers कि हम तो तुम्हारा ही भाई है, हमसे क्यों लड़ते हो आप? So that's where they refused to fight. So I knew from my own grandfather's history कि there was some kind of a commotion in the Indian Army, and people refused to fight even though they were very loyal. My grandfather was very loyal to the British. So I had some kind of an idea in my head was there from that time onwards, that India's becoming free has to do with Subhash Bose, because the British were ruling this country using our own people. And the single biggest instrument of their power in not only India, all over the British Empire was the British Indian Army. Right. And this British Indian Army turned against them because of Subhash Bose. And that's the reason they left this country. Of course, I did not have that much of clarity. So this was my link with Subhash Bose, if you can call it a link. Otherwise, I had no link. I was never a Netaji Bhakt. Today I might be, but I was not an Netaji Bhakt. So people tend to assume that I'm very, have some emotional, or some reason to. No, I have no such reasons. In fact, I grew up liking all of them. It is like when I joined Hindustan Times, and it was in 2001. So it was by this time there was a commission of inquiry functioning. This is Mukherjee Commission, and there were a lot of stories.
I think they started around 1999.
They started, but the media story started coming in 2000, 2001. V. Sanghi was very keen about this issue for whatever reasons. So he gave a lot of publicity to the Netaji case, and also other papers were carrying, because we did not have channels in that way very famous in those days. So this story was there, and then there was what happened. This was the beginning of the internet era in our country. So suddenly, from the era of newspaper and magazines, we got into the age of internet, and now we had no limitation of words. Because in newspaper and magazines you have a limitation: 200 words or 1,000 words. Everything you say has to be contained in those many words, and you can use only 1 or 2 pictures, or maybe 3, not more than that in magazines. But now you have unlimited space for as much as you can write, and you can use as many pictures. Videos, the bandwidth was not there, so you can't use videos. But suddenly you have this thing available to you, and then you also had an international audience too. So earlier your paper Hindustan Times would be available in Delhi and NCR, people read. But was Hindustan Times going online, internet is available worldwide. And there were a lot of people sitting, especially in America, North America, they were watching and what was happening, and they were very so this with new situation having changed so much thanks to internet. So there was an idea which came to one of my colleagues, Shali Timin, and Shali thought of it that there should be an inquiry into Subhash Bose's death. I had by this time shown a little bit of interest in terms of Netaji's DNA should be done. So I have been talking about it because there was a commission functioning, and so I had done a story about Subhash Bose's death by this time, maybe in 2000. So they put me a part of a team. So I was also, and there were others also. So this was a starting point. So thereafter, it's been like a story of Bikram and Betal. That this Betal of Netaji death mystery was on my shoulders, and it never left me. I wanted to get rid of it at times. The last 25 years not been like this, and I've been constantly talking about it. So there were times when I got away, and I tried to get away from this thing. Is what can be done? So because there's so much of frustration. So this is like a Bikram Betal. So I'm in a sense Bikram, and this Netaji death mystery is Betal, which I never chose. It came to me on its own, and it has never left me. So I now regard it to be my fate. This is my.
So I'd like to ask you. So. Because his mystery, and there are going to be a lot of chapters, and there are going to be a lot of waves.
Yes.
Is it absolutely clear that we got independence only because of the effort of Subhash Chandra Bose and people around him?
Some people take objection to it because they tell me that how can you say that one person, brought us freedom? You cannot say that. So of course I would never say that. But my problem is this: when we say that Netaji brought us freedom, this is basically a response to those who were for last 70 years. And even today, they are giving us a line that "Dedi hame jati bina khadak bina dhal," because the official line of Government of India, even today as we speak of Modi, that the British left this country because of the force of ahimsa. So if you're going to give me that garbage, I'm going to tell you that India became free because of Netaji. Otherwise, of course, people have this whole country was brought together. Everybody had a role to play. Beginning 1857, and Gandhiji also played a role in the whole in building up the whole thing. I never said that Panditji also had a role to play. He was a very eminent freedom fighter. He fought very well. But then at the end of it, the best person to take that decision, who was the person because of whose action he took that call, was Sir Clement Atley, who was the British Prime Minister. When he decided to set India free, he was also, by the way, when Churchill was the Prime Minister, he was the Deputy Prime Minister. So it's not that he was in dark earlier. He was very much in the picture.
When did Clement Atley become the Prime Minister?
He became Prime Minister in 1945-ish. 45 or the end of Second World War.
Just about 2 years before.
Yeah, Second World. And before that, he was the Deputy Prime Minister.
Okay.
So it's not that he was sitting in the opposition. So he knew what was happening in this country and he had access to the government record. So Atley was a person who knew everything, who knew the best what was happening in the country, and he decided to set India free. And this gentleman, he came to India in 56. The story very long. People, talk only one part of it. He came here. He came to India several times, but he came in 56. He went to Lucknow. This story is not very well known. So he went to Lucknow. He was received by then the Chief Minister of Lucknow in Raj Bhavan, which is the Sampurnanji, Dr. Sampurnanji. He has a very famous university, Sanskrit University in Varanasi named after him. So Dr. Sampurnanji, and this is a very interesting anecdote which was which was brought out in the open by a former IB man, Dharmendra Gaud. So Dharmendra Gaud, came out, in 1985. He said that when Atley came to Lucknow, I was in the VIP security.
Okay.
And I was there, posted there, and I was keeping an eye on them. And this is a very wont of Indians, give you a very good in spying. So he was keeping an eye, and he was keeping his, and he said, we were also recording what was happening, what Italy and others were talking to each other. So that's the indication he gives. Sampurnanji, who was close to Subhash Chandra Bose from very long time, and secretly, of course, he was in touch with the so-called Gumnami Baba, who was in Lucknow at that time.
I like to talk about that.
And who was in Lucknow at that point of time, but this is secret, so you keep it aside. But Sampurnanji, even if you leave out Gumnami Baba, he knew Subhash Bose. Sampurnanji, according to Dharmendra Gaud, who was an IB man, that Sampurnanji asked Clement Atley, what happened to Subhash Bose? Did he die or not? So Atley told him that he went to Russia. And he told him a story which of how he escaped, so on and so forth. So according to Dharmendra Gaud, he got everything on a tape. It was recorded. So they spied on the former British Prime Minister, and they got everything on record. And he said this tape was sent to the IB headquarters. So it makes one thing is very clear that Mr. Atley was in a very good mood when he was in India, and he was talking very frankly. So the more well-known, of course, anecdote from that period is from when he goes to Calcutta. And in Calcutta, of course, he is hosted by the then acting governor, because the governor was not there. So the Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court was Fani Bhushan Chakravarti. Now, there I would like to draw attention of your audience, because I'm taking mostly young people would be listening to this, this podcast, because please do not confuse today's Calcutta with the Calcutta of 1950s. Calcutta of 1950s was the number one city of this country, as it was the case earlier. So it was the biggest city after London in the entire British Empire. So Calcutta was number one in every which sense in 1956. So don't confuse the imagery of Calcutta High Court of today with Calcutta High Court of 1955 or 52, 56.
Okay.
So much so that after the transfer of power, the judges of the Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court were Angrez.
Sir, I'd like to cut you here about this transfer of power, because a lot of people will not understand what does that term mean.
I'll come to that, but this thing was that the Calcutta High Court Chief Justices were Angrez after independence.
Sorry?
Calcutta, the Chief Justices of Calcutta High Court after transfer of power, 1947, they were Angrez.
And for how long would that be?
They were there up to 1952.
So from 1947
to 52, the Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court, which is the oldest court in India, proper court. I'm not talking about the Mughal courts and all that. So it was basically technically our Supreme Court before, if you go back to the East India Company days.
it was known to all the people.
It is publicly. You go to the Calcutta High Court website and check it for yourself. Who is the first Indian who took over as the Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court? It is Fani Bhushan Chakravarti. So Fani Bhushan Chakravarti was not a small fry. He was not a reporter reporting for a newspaper. So you have to take him very seriously. He's not an ordinary person, because I find people making claims, no, he's anybody. And it's not anybody. Fani Bhushan Chakravarti was not a hack. He was not a journalist working for a small time newspaper. He was a first Indian to have become the Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court. Before him, there were Angrez sitting there. And he is no axe to grind. He was not into politics. He was not a member of RSS. He was just a judge. And he a much more credible person than our politicians are today. So he was the one who hosted Clement Atley. And he, of course, then whatever happened is known to the entire country.
Sir, I like to understand.
You want to talk about the transfer of power.
Yeah, and one more very important question. How can this one man be able to defeat the entire British Empire?
The reason the one man was, as I said, the simple was straightforward, that the British were ruling this country using our own people. So, and the single biggest instrument of power was the British Indian Army. And this is something even Baba Sahib Ambedkar understood, and his interview is also available, recorded. And he said the same thing which Atley said, in fact, by the way, indirectly, but in 55 BBC, when Baba Sahib spoke to the BBC, he was interviewed, he said the same thing. They were using our people, using the British Indian Army. And because of the Subhash Bose and INA, there was a virtual revolt, because people refused to fight, and people, when the INA people were brought on trial, they were humiliated here. So we had this war crimes trial in Red Fort
trials.
So people felt very bad. At the end, they were all Indians. So in a sense, the INA started the process of Indianization of the Indian Army.
Right.
Indian Army, which was a British entity, because of the INA, they started becoming Indian. So that process started with that. For example, initially people started using the slogan, the cry Jai Hind, which is the INA slogan. This is not the Indian Army. It was devised when Netaji was in Nazi Germany. So the Indian people started to say Jai Hind in 1940s. So we have records about it. So initially, anybody who was found to say Jai Hind was, he was punished by the British Indian Army, the Indian Army. But over a period of time now, it's become the slogan of Indian Army.
And how well educated was he?
Who?
This Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose.
Subhash Chandra Bose was, he was born to in a rich family. In the sense, his father was a very eminent lawyer. He was born in Cuttack. And Subhash, I think he learned English first before Bengali.
Okay.
So his
Despite being a Bengali, he knew English
because
better.
he was a good, like Panditji and Gandhiji belonged to good family, and he was, so he accessed the Western education first. So in so much so that when he was a teenager, they moved to Calcutta and he went to school and college. So he had difficulty and people used to make fun of his Bengali accent because he learned English first. So he was, in that sense, he was very westernized educated. But when he was a teenager, he became very spiritually inclined. And this is all known facts. These are nothing new. These are all known facts. When he began reading all our texts, spiritual scriptures and Gita and Mahabharata, everything he began reading. And by the age of 18, he wanted to become a sadhu. Okay. So he fled from his home. So in between, he used to do a lot of public work. There was some TB outbreak in one village, so he would go with his friends and go and do some social work. So he was a very different child from that point onwards. And then he was eventually sent to appear for the ICS. And ICS, what is the Indian IAS today? But ICS are far more tougher and difficult, and especially because you have to go to England and only very few people could do. Subhash Bose did not prepare very well. He did not have enough time. Probably only few months he prepared, and he stood fourth all over rank.
Is it all India?
All over India and all over England put together, because ICS one service. So he stood fourth, and he didn't study very.
British Empire.
Yeah, so he stood only for 4-5 months, and he stood fourth. So that is a level. And he had, subjects.
And I'm assuming the British would have tried.
He understood Sanskrit. He, of course, English composition, Sanskrit, everything. So you have to be very well educated. You should know how to horse ride and all that thing. So he was very well educated. In fact, and then he resigned. That's very significant, because we don't understand the importance of the ICS today, because it is the Naukari of Sahibs. What you see today are very, this imitation of the actual thing. You go to these, the Delhi's clubs, such as golf club and gym.
It was a privileged job.
No, but what you see right now, they're mimicking. Go to Calcutta club. So people mimic. They try to become Angrez, which they are not. You put on, the tie and shirt, when the temperature outside is 40 degrees Celsius. That looks nonsense because London, they don't do it. So they mimic, they copy Angrez. And so it looks very awkward, very nonsensical to me actually. So this was there, and then this man was the first, Subhash Chandra Bose was the first person who joined the ICS and he left it for freedom struggle.
So he joined
and then
he
left.
cleared an exam, which was the toughest exam in the world.
And he resigned. He sent a letter to Secretary of State, I'm resigning. And that letter
and he was in London at that point of time?
He was in London this time.
Around what year would this be?
This would be around 1921 and he would be around 24 years of age.
Just before the Quit India movement was about to start, 1942.
No, 21. This is the 20 years before 21.
1921.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was about, you add 3 years more to it. He would be around 24-ish at that time.
A young man.
Very young man, very, very young. And he left, he came here and so they didn't have the planes and all that. So he came by ship.
Obviously.
He arrived in Bombay. He went to Mani Bhavan to meet Gandhiji because a big deal. Any young person for the first time in the entire history of Indian freedom struggle or whatever, somebody had brilliant enough to have cleared the ISIS and then left it for freedom struggle. So he met Gandhiji in Mani Bhavan when he came here.
Do you think there was a clash that, while at that point of time, Mr. Gandhi, who was the numero uno, he was the big boss.
Yeah.
And here comes this man who's achieved everything.
It started from that point onwards. The very first meeting.
It was a clash of egos.
No, it's not egos. The very first, no, there couldn't be any clear ego because as you said in the introduction, Gandhiji was much more older. He was 28 years older than Subhash Bose. So you cannot have an ego clash with somebody who's your father's age. So you can have an ego clash with somebody of your age group. So Subhash was barely 24 years old. Gandhiji was already, close to 50, above 15. So there was no such thing. But Subhash Bose came and met Gandhiji in 1920, 21, 22 when he returned from UK in Bombay, Mani Bhavan. And he was not satisfied with Gandhiji's answer. He put him some questions. How do you want to take this whole thing forward? How will you think the India can attain freedom? He said Gandhiji was not able to. I was not satisfied with his answers. So Gandhiji asked me to go and talk to C.R. Das. C.R. Das was a very well-known Chitranjan Das. After whom you have this very famous C.R. Park locality of Delhi.
All right.
So Chitranjan Das was a very big leader of Congress, and Subhash Bose went, and Subhash Bose in a sense became a follower of C.R. Das.
All right.
So he had two people who, C.R. Das was his political guru. Another person who probably would be in the same league, if not, he was the elder brother of Sardar Patel. Right. Vittal Bhai Patel was, and Subhash was in 30s with him. So Subhash was, in a sense, the Chitranjan Das was his guru, but he also was under the wings of Patel Senior for some time. But C.R. Das was Subhash Bose's political guru for some time because he died after some time. So then Subhash was on his own. So he was one person on his own without any support system, much, much younger to all other people. Patel was 22 years his senior. Nehru was 9 years his senior. They were all part of one group. Subhash was on his own, and yet he came up in such a big way, and he was able to eventually defeat Gandhi's nominee. So it's a mind-boggling thing, what he did. If you put yourself in those, era. And I remember watching, you must have seen the movie Gandhi, Attenborough. So this movie, what I did not know then, today I know, was a propaganda film funded by Government of India.
It was funded by the Government of India.
It is our pictures.
And if I remember correctly, in 80s and 90s, I'm an 80s child, I was born in 80s. It used to come every year on 2nd October.
Oh, fantastic movie. As a movie, it's a fantastic. I loved it. Right. I still love it.
But there is no Subhash Chandra Bose.
There is no Subhash. There's not even a single scene on him. That's fun. It's a propaganda film, so they didn't want. You cannot have Gandhiji's life depicted on movie, 3-hour long movie, and not have Subhash Bose in it. Because even Gandhiji's very well-known supporters, biographer, including Angrez and Americans, even they are very critical what Subhash Bose, but the way he was thrown out is not reflects very poorly on Gandhiji.
So he became the president of Congress.
Yeah.
And then he was there for...
To become the Congress president, he was a mayor of Calcutta first, because he won elections with C.R. Das. And eventually, to become the Congress president, and the term was Rashtrapati in those days for Congress president. So to become the Congress president was the biggest post any Indian could take in those days. Outside the government. Okay. So because if in a government, obviously you can become whatever.
And how significant was that post?
Very important. I said the highest post any Indian could attain in those days. From our side, if you are an Indian working for the British government, then you can think. Otherwise, for example, this happened in 38-39. I think in 38-39, the highest,
and all of these are
highest rank any Indian achieved in the armed forces would be. I very much thought if anybody was a colonel then.
Everyone above that was a Gora.
Yeah, because the highest rank achieved, Cariappa was the person
Field
who
Marshal.
he was made brigadier towards the end of 47, 47ish, I believe, towards the end when they were about to leave. He was a lieutenant colonel, lieutenant colonel. That's the highest. And most Indians did not want to become anything. I mean, they were very happy to be saluting the Angrez every morning. They wanted to be Subedar. Their only, the ego would be massaged by saluting the white man. So even if we were not bothered about, becoming big officer, but Angrez never allowed you to become anything, bigger than that.
Okay.
So they were the field marshals, they were the generals and all that. Some of Indians were made captains and all that. So
Right.
So
he left.
So you can imagine that otherwise, you can be a chief minister of some state, or you can be part of the Viceroy's council and all that. That's fine. But outside that fold, outside those areas, the biggest post any Indian could attain in India from the nationalistic point of view was to be the Congress president. And which Subhash Bose became.
For how long was he the president?
1 year, and then you had this
And then he
story.
left.
Then he was thrown out of the Congress party. Everybody knows that. He was thrown out. Gandhiji did not like because he did so many things with Gandhiji.
And this would be around
that would be 39ish. I'm not very good at the dates, and I'm not into Netaji's life and times. I'm more into
I know.
death
You are
part.
more about...
So you should get my friend Chandrachur Ghosh. He's the Netaji's biographer.
See, the reason why I'm also asking you that, because there are a lot of people who would want to know about this man.
But for that, I would recommend to you that my friend Chandrachur Ghosh, we are the co-author of the book of Death Mystery. He has done a fantastic biography of Netaji.
Right.
Penguin Random House published it.
Okay.
Doing very well.
Okay.
So he is the expert. If you want to get deep into Subhash Bose's life and times, he's the man.
Right. So after that, I believe then he left India.
Well, it is not like that he left India. He didn't. The thing was that the split between Subhash Bose and Gandhi, there were three sides of it. I mean, there were three reasons why Gandhiji or Gandhi supporters, I call them Gandhi Bhakts. There's a problem between these two factions. So Netaji supporters and the Gandhi supporters. The first was that Gandhiji, and this goes back to your earlier question which you put, and I was not, able to rather answer. The first thing was that Gandhiji was always in favor of dominion status.
Okay, and what does that mean?
And Subhash wanted Puran Swaraj.
Okay, complete independence.
Complete independence would be that like America as a complete Puran Swaraj. The Americans fought with the Britishers and they threw them out under George Washington's leadership.
Right.
So, and they had no connections. America has no connection with the British crown or anything.
Yeah,
so
they don't call themselves a Commonwealth.
No, nothing of that sort. So America is a Puran Swaraj. So there's a complete independence. Canada, on the other hand, is dominion of Great Britain. So even today, the head of the state is the British monarch. So they retain that connection. They were the flag, same. And
so does Australia then?
Australia, New Zealand, India, many other countries.
But we don't have the UK.
No, we have made some, there's a long story afterwards, we were some changes, but we are part of Commonwealth and we recognize the King of England as the head of that union. So, but Subhash always wanted Puran Swaraj. He never wanted to be part of dominion status. I mean, doesn't make any sense. On one hand, you keep abusing the Angrez for doing what they did in India. On the other hand, you become part of this Gulamo ka Tola. Commonwealth is nothing but Gulamo ka Tola. If you leave aside the Australians and Canadians and others, all the others are basically former colonies, no? Africans in us, Pakistan. So we were basically gulam the pehle unke. So the first difference between Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhiji was that Gandhiji wanted dominion status to be part of he wanted to retain a connection with the British authorities, British monarch, and Subhash wanted to complete freedom. Second thing, Gandhiji was not in favor of heavy industry of any sort. Subhash set up a body called Planning Committee when he was the Congress president, which has now evolved to Niti Aayog today. The same thing became Planning Commission in Free India. So that is one of the lasting legacy of Subhash Chandra Bose in our country.
And what was his thought behind it?
They wanted, want to take out India out of poverty, you have to have big industry here. No? You have to bring big industry in this country. Gandhiji, on the other hand, was focused on the rural economy and this charkha and all that thing. So this Subhash Bose thought was of no consequence. So this was the other problem. Subhash Bose formed this committee and he was not like Gandhiji never wanted heavy industry. So none of the Gandhians like all this kind of a thing. And the third one, which has become very well known, that the Gandhiji was not in favor of any violence against the British. And Subhash was for using any kind of violence. I mean, any means,
Azadi cheen ke liye
cheen ki, jo bhi hai karke. But Gandhiji was okay with violence against the Japanese. That's fine, but no violence against British. That's the So even his violence was also having, some.
I like to have a separate podcast. on
Because
that.
you should discuss,
Right.
because what's happening,
Right.
you are not concerned with what the British and Americans doing in Japan. So there, then the concept of ahimsa doesn't come in the picture.
Right.
But when it comes to the British, you are suddenly becoming very much pro ahimsavadi. So that's so you have to see very clearly. So because the way Japanese have been demonized by us is also a matter of shame for us, because they helped us in our freedom struggle. So what happened, when the Second World War was, sort of declared, Netaji was in Chennai, Marina Beach. He was giving a lecture, if I can recall correctly. Well, the thought process was, look, this is the time now. Now, this is now our opportunity, because you cannot defeat the Angrez. They're too powerful for you to be defeated. But once they are embroiled in, wars with others, so that's your opportunity. And then you get support system from different parts of the world. And he said there was always this kind of an understanding in the Congress circles. This is what Netaji's thought process was, that the mistake that we made in First World War, we would not repeat it in case there's a Second World War. The First World War, the Angrez, when the war started, they sort of approached our people and they said, look, don't trouble us at this moment. We are having some internationals. And once we are clear with the war, we will give you some concession. We'll give you dominion state or something of that sort. On that condition, Gandhiji wholeheartedly supported the British in First World War. Subhash was not active. He was too young. So he became active only after 1921 or 2 when he returned to India. So First World War is 1914 to 1919. So we, in a way, we not only did we not come in the way of the war efforts, we actually supported them by allowing them to operate freely and not create any problem for them. So Subhash Bose, looking back, thinking it back in 1938-39 when the Second World War was declared, he said, look, this is a mistake that we made, and we always knew this was a mistake. And second, we get a second chance, another war erupts, we will not do this thing. We will utilize and exploit that war to our interest. Now, this question, whenever you approach, anybody who will discuss Netaji and Gandhiji, anybody, one should always keep one thing in mind. What was India's main core national interest in 1930s or 1940s?
Independence.
To become free. That was our main interest.
Yes.
The problem here happened was that Gandhiji went to the Viceroy, told him that in this time of your, we are with you. So in a sense, he threw his weight behind the Great Britain, in a way, manner of speaking. And second thing, Gandhiji around the same time told the Viceroy that, and this, which is, you can ask anybody who's Gandhiji's admirer, they will all tell you the same story. The Gandhiji, he said, the aim of my life is to bring peace for the mankind. So any Gandhi Bhakt you catch hold of, be it, especially in the BJP today these days, they'll tell you they're more focused on the world peace. So world peace is what sets Gandhi Bhakts apart from everybody else. So Subhash was having, in a sense, a very narrow-minded person. He was only talking in terms of getting freedom for India.
At any cost.
But any cost. But Gandhiji and Gandhi supporters are essentially the first priority, and the first, even today, even if today, you can listen to all the lectures which are, all the addresses given by our Prime Minister President, they're all talking about they're not concerned about India as much as they're concerned with the world, humanity as a whole. So India has repeatedly made statements and attentions about that. No? There should be peace for the mankind and all that. I don't get water in Delhi for 2 hours. Our river is so dirty when I came here. Pollution. So you don't have the basic necessity in the heart, the capital of India, and you are talking of world peace. But this is a jumla which sells in Western countries. A long story. It's very good to the ears of people, especially in high society. So that's how it is. So then the Subhash Bose then knew that if he were not to go out, he would be kept in prison. Because he was the one who was trying to create trouble for British.
And he was in Calcutta.
He was put behind Bihars. Okay. He was put behind Bihars, and he thought, if I stay here, they will keep me in the jail for the rest of the Second World War, I'll end up doing nothing. So I have to go out. So then he devised a strategy, and this was the great escapes of his life, that he escaped from Calcutta, from prison. Eventually he reached Germany. I think, and I have said earlier also, that in our history, there have been 3 great escapes. So one was, of course, Chandrachud Maurya. I do not know how truthful that is, but there's an account.
But definitely Shivaji
Maharaj, obviously, very clearly, Agra. That the way Shivaji Maharaj escaped from the Agra fort, it gives me goosebumps, because I went to Agra fort. In fact, that area where the prisons are located itself, you still can't approach, because it's all under the military cover even today. Because I think army is still there in certain parts of the Agra fort. So God knows how he escaped. So I think I'm told because I used
basket of flowers,
but that was only one part of the story, because there were no cars and no nothing. So for Shivaji Maharaj to leave Agra fort, come out of it, and then to reach his region, Maharashtra, it would have taken long time, no? Because must have taken at least a month to reach there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's much more
And then now we're talking about this man.
Subhash Bose
From
again.
Calcutta, he went.
He was in jail, so he devised strategy. I will do commit it. I will sit on a dharna and I will stop eating. And the British understood that if he dies there, it will be a problem. So let him go. Let us put him in his home and then put a cover around, security cover. So he was able to escape, and then there were multiple players and multiple places. One person I would like to talk because of the very fascinating link with James Bond is that there was a person named Bhagat Ram Talwar. So Bhagat Ram Talwar met Subhash Chandra Bose in, I think, Peshawar. And his job given to him was that he was a communist, he was a freedom fighter. His brother was hanged. He was also a freedom fighter, and they were communist in the thinking. So they were like Bhagat Ram Talwar was assigned the task of seeing Subhash Bose from up to Russian border, and which he did. And Subhash was from vanished into Russia.
So from Calcutta, he would have gone.
He went to Gomo, which is in the from Calcutta. He was driven by his nephew Shishir Kumar Bose to Gomo.
Okay.
Gomo is in right now Jharkhand.
All right.
And then in Gomo, there was Shishir's elder brother was there,
right.
Ashoknath Bose, and he stayed with his brother, his other nephew for 2 days. Then both the brothers, they saw him off at a railway station, and he took a train, and then God knows how he has traveled. In Punjab, he was helped by a lot of people. I'm told that the Baldev Singh and Tara Singh also had a role to play because the Akalis were in favor of Subhash.
So from Punjab,
Netaji was very famous in Punjab in a way. So he was
more famous. I'm assuming he must be more famous in West Bengal.
No, obviously he was right. As long he was until he left, he was the most popular person in Bengal. But after he left, then he was forgotten. But till that time, he was most famous. But then he had
he reaches
area support system, and people backed him. So he had support system in Punjab. So Kirti Kisan Party was there, and there was another gentleman called Niranjan Singh Talib.
All right.
He also helped him escape in this whole chain of the events and the people who were helping. Niranjan Singh Talib became eventually minister in the Pratap Singh Kehra ministry, and Talib's grandson or great grandson is Yuvraj Singh, the cricketer. So he is the same family tree.
So Yuvraj Singh's family helped Subhash Chandra Bose escape. All the way from Calcutta.
He was one of the persons who escaped. There were multiple people. We know only some of them. So Niranjan Singh Talib was a very well-known person. So he also appeared before the one of the commissions set up in Netaji's death case. He also disbelieved Subhash Bose's death, but he played his part because he was Calcutta-based. He used to run newspaper from Calcutta. Bhagat Ram Talwar is very much more fascinating because Talwar, what happened when Subhash Bose escaped? He went to Russia and then he reached Germany, and from Germany he used to send messages to Talwar that you convey this my story, my messages to the people, tell them, inform them what I'm doing, because Netaji had a plan. He gave that plan to the German foreign minister that I want sabotage in the armed forces, I want this to happen. So all things he used to send to Bhagat Ram Talwar. He was point man in Kabul and that part of the world. Bhagat Ram Talwar, the problem, he was a communist. So after Russia was invaded by Germany, which was after Subhash Bose reaches Germany, the things change and Germany attacks Russia. So this person's loyalty is more toward Russia than anything else because communists were more concerned with Moscow and Peking than anything else.
So
Bhagat Ram Talwar then turned a traitor.
Okay.
And he began whatever information Subhash Chandra Bose sent, secret information, he used to supply it to his handler in British intelligence. And British intelligence, his handler was Peter Fleming. Now, Peter Fleming is Ian Fleming's elder brother.
The James Bond
creator. And Ian, of course, created the character called James Bond, looking at the real life incident, real life things.
So we're talking about a man.
There's another link to him. If you stretch, if I can, in fact, a lot of people I can keep on going because I have tried to locate even their present whereabouts of their families. I can't talk because intrusion into personal family. But one thing I must tell you that Bhagat Ram Talwar was very well known in 70s as Netaji supporter, whatnot. He used to go to Calcutta, give lectures, and he used to hang around, or he was part of the Freedom Fighter Association of Northwest Frontier Province in Delhi.
Okay.
So he was very pally with Shah Rukh Khan's father. Shah Rukh Khan's father was a freedom fighter. He was a decent guy. I mean, Shah Rukh Khan's father was not like Talwar, but Shah Rukh Khan's father and Bhagat Ram Talwar used to hang around together. Yeah. And then nobody knew what this man had done. He had actually betrayed Subhash Bose. It was only after he died that his file opened in England, and then we came to know that he had turned out to be a traitor.
Oh.
So but eventually Subhash Bose escaped. It was a fantastic.
So Subhash,
and you understand these things are not very normal. I mean, it's like almost like a spy story. You wouldn't
But
think,
it is real.
But you wouldn't think of anybody else, be it Panditji or Patel, doing any sort of thing. It's too risky for a person to do all this. In entire route, Netaji is leaving, Calcutta, Gomo, all the places. If he were caught, he would be shot, killed, tortured. Nobody would come to know. He was taking enormous risk.
Talking about a man.
In fact, when he left, the British intelligence was ordered to kill him. That is also has come out.
When he was leaving Calcutta.
When he left Calcutta and he escaped, so they actually issued an order to kill him, which they had never done for anybody else in the country. That itself shows you that how much of a risk Subhash Bose posed to the British Empire. The British never issued any threat to Gandhi to kill him. No, never. They never did it. Not to Patel, not to Nehru. They never thought them as adversary. Subhash was an entirely different league.
So we're talking about a man who's coming from a privileged background.
Yeah.
A rich man's son.
Yes.
Goes to London, prepares for ICS,
Yes.
clears it amongst the top 4 in the world. At that point of time, I'm talking about the British Indian Empire. He leaves it, comes back to India,
becomes
the all-powerful Congress president.
Which takes some time, but he in between there's a lot of ups and downs. He suffers a lot. He goes to jail several times, and he is also he's in politics. He becomes a mayor of Calcutta, but yes,
then defeats Gandhi's.
He's able to defeat Gandhiji's main man,
and then from there he starts doing things separately. He decides that I have to get independence for the country.
Yes,
is kept in a jail in Calcutta, then house arrest. And we are not talking about the times when Google Maps were available.
Nothing. In fact, if you were to Google search one thing, which is to,
so it is the Great Indian Escape.
Not only that, much more than that. If you were to just Google search Bose Himmler, and you will see some pictures of Netaji with sitting with the top brass of Adolf Hitler. Himmler was number 2. He was the head of the Gestapo.
All right.
Now, these people are one of the most notorious people of world history. If we look back from now, they say that Himmler was the one who was responsible for a lot of the mess which Hitler left. Now, these people had overrun several countries by this time, and Subhash Bose had nothing to offer to them. But he had come from a colony. This was not even a country. And all you do is to just observe Netaji's body language and the body language of these people who had overrun several countries. And those we were told were very racist of the highest order. They were racist. They used to, not think of others as good. But then Subhash was sitting with them, having dinner, breakfast, whatever. And Himmler is taking him around in his own car. So there must be something very special about Subhash Bose. Why would they give that kind of a concession? They had nothing to gain from him, from that man. They had already overrun many countries. So they were the peak of these 2 pictures, which you will search and you find in Google, of Bose and Himmler. These pictures were taken at the peak of the Nazi
Which year
power.
would that be?
This will be like 42.
Okay.
This is the peak of the power of the Nazi regime. So at that time, when they're at the highest point, and they receive a man from India who has nothing to offer to them,
from a poor country, which is not even a country.
It's not. We don't even figure anywhere. It's a colony. It's not even poor. We are utterly poor. We are still poor. Forget about those days. We are still a poor country. But even I'm talking about 1940, so it's nothing to offer. All you do, because earlier this concept of body language was not there in our country. Now at least younger people understand what is the body language concept. So you go and check, you see Netaji's body language, you see the body languages of all these people. These are very important top level people of Hitler. If they are giving him so much of respect because we can't hear them, we can only see photographs, but you can observe looking at the body language.
Right.
So I would urge you to show these photographs so that people see for them and see that part. Of course, you can abuse Subhash Bose for intermingling with the people who are now looked down upon as evil. No. But then what happens? The issue of there are 2 issues. I have there are people who are all for the world peace. Good idea. But I am very. We should be very narrow. We should think of our own country because
national interests are paramount.
In this age and time, everybody is abusing President Putin. Everybody is abusing.
But we're buying oil from them.
Of course,
we're buying cheap oil from them and selling it to Europeans.
We are friends with Iran. People abuse Iran. We are friends with Iran. The Burmese junta don't give a damn about human rights.
Right.
But they are our friends, and the North Korean dictator, he's our friend. So we have been friends with all kind of dictators all these years. Right. So national interest is all about that. It's not about, somebody's a good or bad guy. We were friends with Saddam Hussein also, by the way. Saddam may have been a bad person for the Americans, not for us. He was our friend. He backed us on Kashmir. So I am only concerned with my own country's national interest. I'm not concerned what they're doing in their own country. And there's also this whole idea. In fact, you find very strange in Calcutta.
Why does this hypocrisy come?
It is hypocrisy. You'll see, especially among the Bengalis, unfortunately, because I have just come from Calcutta. In Calcutta, everybody is crying about Hitler killing Jews, which I also cry about because nobody wants to see any other fellow human being being killed. So they keep abusing, fascists, BJP's fascists and all. So they dislike Hitler like anything, but they never utter a single word about Churchill, who is responsible for killing the Bengalis. So you're not concerned.
Bengal famines happening.
So they are not bothered about that. They are not bothered about Churchill killing their own people, but they are bothered about Hitler killing people in his country. I will be bothered about both, but I will be first bothered by primarily my own people first. Then I will worry about the Jews, because first I have to set my own house in order. So these guys are more interested. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. The people in Calcutta which I've come across, they don't dislike Hitler because he killed Jews. They dislike him because he attacked Germany. Russia. So that is the anger they have against him. So it's not that the communists are not least bothered about Jews getting killed, because they don't give support to Israel. I am a pakka supporter of Israel of today's time, and I don't think so. They were not opposed to Hamas also. So it's all hypocrisy. So they are not against Hitler because he killed Jews. They are against Hitler. I'm talking about the Bengali intellectual point of view. They are against Hitler because he attacked Russia.
Communism ka
chakkar hai. It's nothing to do with they don't give a damn about Jews getting killed and all that. Because if they did, they would be standing by Israel today as we are standing today. What Hamas did to their people, and look, all this 10th October, and then
10th October,
these people were kidnapped, young girls were kidnapped. Such a devastating thing it was. So
now let's come to the most important date, which is August 1945. I think it's 18th August.
Yeah.
So what happened? And if it was fabricated by Netaji himself, or was it done by the British, or was it done by the people who were working for British?
The date to start should be 15th of August 1945, because it's very important, because it in a way will take you to the question which we started talking about.
But August 15th is important to
August
us?
15th was, it is important to us for the simple reason that 15th of August 1945, Japanese announced surrender to the Allied forces, because 7th and 9th they were nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So they couldn't, and this was totally unexpected. I have seen records, and I think reproduced in one of my books, that the British were totally surprised. They never thought war would come to an end so quickly. So it was totally total shock, but they were really pleased with it. Suddenly the Japanese, they couldn't fight any longer, so they decided to surrender.
So the surrender date was 15th
of August 1945. And from the British side, or the Allied side, the person who was the main man was Mountbatten. He was the supreme commander of Allied forces in Southeast Asia. So Mountbatten, then he decided, when he was made, of all the people he was made, so he was Subhash Bose's main adversary in Second World War, you can say that. So on one side of Subhash Bose, he's fighting with the help of the Axis forces, especially the Japanese, and he's operating in the Southeast Asia sector of the war theater. And then this theater, the other side, the overall head is Mountbatten.
Okay.
So Mountbatten in 1947, when it came to setting India free, he specifically chose the date of 15th of August because it reminded him of his victory. And we, the shameless people, accepted that. We should have never accepted 15th of August, because the date 15th of August is the date of Subhash Bose's defeat. And because that day the Japanese announced surrender, the INA's war came to an end, whatever they were doing. And so Subhash...
So was it purposely chosen?
It was purposely chosen.
To make us feel bad?
No. He did it because it made him feel very good. And we were also, you have to understand.
And are we talking, and the government at that point of time?
Indians had, the thing with Indians was that when the INA people were brought on trial in 46 or late 45, the most famous nara used to be ki Lal Kile se aayi awaaz, Cycle Shahnawaz, Inqilab Zindabad. Okay. After they got the power, and this is the Congress used to raise these slogans. After they got the power, the most famous slogan became ki Mountbatten ki jai ho, Mountbatten ki jai ho. So we are we change colors very quickly. So you forget that. The thing is, we go back to 15th August 45. So Japanese have announced surrender. So Subhash Chandra Bose was he was the head of the Free India government. Okay, so he was not heading just the INA. People said that he was heading the INA. No, INA was part of the Azad Hind Sarkar. So he was holding the full-fledged government. He was the head of that government. So he had to decide what to do, to surrender where. The Fauj has to surrender. His government has to, the war has come to an end. Everybody would be caught. So they have to decide what to do next, surrender where, modalities, whether to surrender as part of the Axis bloc or separately. So you have to discuss all these things. So he was, from the information now available, because there were records of interrogation, etc. Now you have a picture that Netaji was, when this happened on 15th of August, he was, conversing, talking to the Japanese, locally, the commanders, and what to do next. And they told him, look, we are not in a position to tell you what is going to happen, because, we also are helpless, because, and the problem that the communication link between us sitting here in Singapore or other places and Tokyo is gone. So you better go to Tokyo. So this is a line which emerges from the Japanese.
So Subhash Chandra Bose is where in Singapore?
He was in 15th of August. He was in close to Singapore.
Okay.
Around that
Which
time.
was at that point of time under the Japanese occupation.
The Japanese
at that point of time.
So
right.
So then he moves. He arrives in Bangkok on 16th of August.
Mm-hmm.
He arrived, then he leaves. Then he has with him a couple of people, including the Japanese Lieutenant General, who was a contact person between the Japanese government and his government, General Isoda, and there were Indians with him. So they reach the Bangkok, and then they leave Bangkok. And 17th August morning, he arrives in Saigon, which is the Ho Chi Minh City of Vietnam today. So then they have a discussion, and they try to reach out to the Japanese, the command of the Southeast Asia, General Terauchi's headquarters. And what they are given the same, look, you have to go to Tokyo. We cannot decide sitting here. And not only that, you are having with you a couple of people, so they cannot go with you, because we are having a problem. Now Americans have put an embargo. The planes cannot fly. So, but we are making arrangement for you to fly. There's a plane which is going to that direction. So you go in that plane.
Okay.
And so Netaji, of course, told his people. So you have this information available, because people who were there were all subsequently interrogated. So we have their accounts and documents are also available. And they said, no, you don't go alone. At least one of us should accompany you. So you should not go alone. These are difficult times. So Netaji then said, okay, I will take Habib with me. Habibur Rahman was Subhash Bose's ADC, he was the deputy chief of staff, and he was also the ADC to Subhash Chandra Bose, who was the president of his government. And so he said, I'll take with him as a matter of protocol. And so 17th August evening, according to the conventional view of history, Subhash Chandra Bose and Habibur Rahman boarded a plane, which was carrying a lieutenant general of Japanese army to somewhere, and Subhash was supposed to be going to Tokyo to work out the surrender modalities of his government and his Fauj, and then he was to have come back to this Singapore area. So the idea is that Netaji will go to Tokyo, talk to the Japanese, and then he would come back to Singapore, and then he would execute the orders or whatever had to be done after having consulted with the Japanese in Tokyo. So next day, this same plane landed in the present-day Taipei city, and they had a short break. Plane took off, it crash landed. Subhash Chandra Bose and this general of the plane, Shidei, and they died. And, the pilots died.
And that's the official line.
That is the official version of the story. And then after some time, his body was cremated in Taiwan, and remains were sent. Habib survived. He took the Netaji's remains to Japan, and these remains were handed over by the Japanese military to Indians, and they in turn.
When you say Indians,
they were in the entire that area, Southeast Asia and Japan. There was a body called Indian Independence League.
Okay,
it was formed earlier. So they were members, and they were people of Subhash Bose, and some Indian Independence League also became part of Netaji's government also. So there were two individuals, Munga Ramamurthy, who was the IL head of the Tokyo area, and there was S.A. Iyer, who was the information minister of Subhash Chandra Bose.
Okay.
Of Subhash Bose. So he was there. So Murthy and Iyer got these ashes, and they took them to a small temple, Rinpoche temple, and asked the priest, you keep it with you.
In Tokyo.
In suburban Tokyo. Now it's part of Tokyo, but it was suburban Tokyo. And they were afraid it might be confiscated by the American authorities, because Americans were in occupation of Japan by this time, more or less. So they requested, the priest were nice and he was pro Netaji and all that. He said, keep it with you and we will take it back.
So after the plane crash, the remains are taken to Renkoji
after the plane crash, Subhash Chandra Bose is cremated in Taiwan and his cremated remains are sent to Tokyo.
Right.
And in Tokyo, they are deposited in a place called.
So then there would be records available of the cremation happening.
Yes, that is what the story is. The whole story, the book now that you're holding in your hand. Yes, that book is all about, because that is where the evidence.
So I'm going to cut you here.
So this is the official version of the plane. Now you have to keep this in mind, because what people do, especially there's a gentleman called Shogoto Bose. He gets a lot of attention because he speaks very well as a Harvard professor. But he's a politician in Calcutta. So he plays wears two different hats. One hat is what you see, the other hat you don't see. He's a politician, he was in Lok Sabha also. So he is Netaji's grandnephew. So when he will tell the story, he will tell you that the Japanese were taking Netaji to Russia. So he's mixing a lot of stuff. Japanese were taking Netaji to Russia, yes, but they did not say it in 45. They did not say it in 46, 47, 48, 49. They were keeping completely mouth shut. It's only in 1950s when they were facing other allegations, they were forced to accept that they were taking him to Russia. So this did not unfold like this. So you are unpacking in a different way. So what I'm telling you is exactly how the Japanese released the news of Subhash Chandra Bose's death in 45, 46, 47ish. Subsequent developments are different. So don't mix. So when people mix two things, it gives you a different picture today. So Japanese were according to them, taking Netaji to Tokyo. They never mentioned the word Russia. This is how story was broken by the Japanese in 1945. And it was all over media in India and all over the world.
So officially he is now cremated and his remains are there in Renkoji.
Officially he is being taken to Tokyo.
Right.
But he dies in a plane crash, which is an accident.
Right.
He's cremated in Taiwan.
In Taipei, yes.
Taipei, and his remains are taken to Japan, and they are now
So it's an open and shut case.
It's an open and shut case. Right. If you see without any, but right now as we are discussing this, there's a story about, Saif Ali Khan, some intruder came and all that. So I have not watched because I'm not very keen about movies and all that. But what I've seen that people are trying to poke holes in the whole story by citing contradictions. Look, this thing is not matching, that is not matching, who came first, who went to the hospital. I wish they could apply the same yardstick to the Netaji case. Devote same attention and this case will be resolved in no time. The attention as much as you're giving and you're getting into the nitty-gritties of the entire story of who took Saif Ali Khan to the hospital and where was he hurt, what happened in the room. Apply the same standard to Subhash Bose's case. These are open and shut cases of you will understand more. These are the basic fundamentals of investigation. First of all, now what happened that when the news of Netaji's death was received in India, people believed it. So they had no other option. They believed it. It was the Americans.
So when this happened in 1945, was he still as popular as he was before he left?
I think he was very popular then. And by 1945, end of 46, he had become more popular than Mahatma Gandhi.
He had become more popular
than Mahatma Gandhi. There are reports to that extent.
So had he survived?
After the INA trials, which started in November 1945, then INA Netaji were the talk of the whole country. So Netaji had become the number one leader of the whole country.
So had he survived? Officially, if he had survived, would he have become the prime minister of the country?
If he had survived, if you ask me, looking back, he wouldn't be allowed to function as prime minister of the country because of somebody who's part of the Axis bloc had been part of the Axis bloc. I think in the new world order, Subhash Bose had no space. You were part of the Axis bloc. You were having some kind of alliance with Hitler and Mussolini Japan. And then Tojo. A person of that level caliber cannot be allowed by the foreign powers, Western powers, to become prime minister of an important country. So they wouldn't allow him to become. Right. So I don't think Netaji had any chance of. He just went and but this is how the whole story broke. So the part which you will not find in many historians' books, what they do in historians in our country, they just simply write two lines that there was a plane crash and he died, without bothering to get into the other details, which I have in my my book, which you're holding in your hand. The stuff is that the British did not believe. They had some reasons to. For example, the death Netaji died on 18th August 1945. For whatever reason, the Japanese announced the death only on 22nd evening. So they were keeping the mouth shut for 4 days, which is very, very awkward sort of scenario, because if he has died, why you are keeping shut your mouth for 4 days. Why announce on 22nd of August? Okay, so they did not announce it then. So the British, and especially the Viceroy here, Archibald Wavell, he had his doubt. He said there's something wrong. He said, my hunch is that gut feeling is something wrong, because Subhash had done similar kind of tricks in past, and if Netaji had not died on that day, in the next few days he would have been caught by the British, and Subhash also knew that he would be killed on the spot. And that's why when you see the interrogation reports, they tell you that Netaji was advised that for freedom struggle to continue, you have to survive. And if you are caught, they will kill you on the very first. They lay their sights on you. So you need to survive. Only then the freedom struggle will survive. That was the entire idea of the escape theory again. But Subhash Bose then, by this time, so the British set up their own inquiries. So there were multiple inquiries, and there were different army units active. So the Americans did their inquiry, the British others. They're different, but eventually what comes through from the records which have become declassified, available to us, is that there was, at certain point of time, there was a combined section which was formed in the military headquarters in Delhi. It was led by W. McBride, who was the number 2 in IB.
Which year would this be?
This was 45-ish.
Okay.
45, late 45, maybe early 46. But this combined section came in the being, because we have records about from this section in 46.
And all of these are official documents available?
These are documents available mostly in Delhi, National Archive. They were released in 1997, but not seen by anybody. I was the first person to take a look at these records. So these records talk about a certain combined section, and this combined section is led by W. McBride, who was the
Gora.
Obviously Gora. So he was the number 2 in IB. IB was like, in those days was no RAW, no CBI. So IB did everything.
Yes,
so IB was whole. So he was there, and then under him there were a lot of other people like Mr. Finney, who was Bengal police chief. There was one Indian, Rai Bahadur Bakshi Badrinath. Badrinath ji was the Punjab CID man, but he was on deputation with MI. And all these people were domain experts, and they were expert on Subhash Bose. Badrinath ji in particular had, he interrogated many of the INA men. So he knew and he was able to extract a lot of information from them. And he had cracked Netaji's escape, how he escaped in 1941 to Germany. That story was cracked by Badrinath in the government circles. So he was the only Indian. There were other Indian, but he was the only Indian of consequence in the entire team. So they did their own inquiry. And these people, when they inquired, they took no time in understanding this entire story of Netaji's death is basically based on hearsay. People are saying that he has died. So you have no evidence. You don't have the dead body. You don't have the dead body's picture. So without a dead body or a picture of a dead body, you can't prove a person has died. Legally speaking, it's a difficulty.
So there was no picture taken?
No picture taken. So they have their own doubt. So the problem, the story was that there were eyewitnesses who claimed that Netaji had died. And when these eyewitnesses were interrogated.
Who interrogated them?
The British did. The Americans did. Habibur Rahman was arrested by the Americans first. They were the one who arrested him. They interrogated him first, and then he was handed to the British. He was brought to Delhi. He was interrogated for several months here. One after another, the officer came and he interrogated him in Delhi's Red Fort. So they were interrogated, and when you put all this thing together, now if I see in terms of 2025, so there's one incident which takes place in Taiwan, Taipei, that a person who's a VIP, who's a very important person, head of a government, he is burnt alive in front of you. You tear off his clothes, and he's taken naked in front of you to the hospital. Such a grisly scene you'll never forget in your life. And small things people remember all their life. But this is such a horrible thing to witness. So when people are asked to recall what happened, so their account should be similar. But the accounts were very contradictory. I mean, Habibur Rahman, about him, we should say this thing, every time he opened his mouth, he would give a different story. First, he told Americans that he has no memory how Subhash was escaped. He said, I lost consciousness. I do not know how Subhash was escaped from the plane crash, from the plane wreck, after the plane had crashed. When he came to the British, he said, I helped Netaji to come out. Now, one of the Japanese guy, Takahashi, said, no, it is me who helped Subhash Bose escape. Another Japanese guy said, no, it is me who I was posted at the station, the airport station. I was the one I was not in the plane. It was I and my men who brought everybody out. So these are very difficult, different accounts and not matching at all with each other. Many contradictions. So you can write an entire book on the contradictions and all those things. So they don't add up. So British also came to a conclusion, so to speak, in a sense that the story is probably not adding up. And the only way to confirm it, now this is where the evidence part starts. The only way to confirm would be to go to Taiwan, And because they say that Netaji was taken to hospital, he was treated and he died and all that. So you check the hospital and other records. So that is the only way you can confirm whether these guys are telling the truth or not. For whatever reasons, or because I can speak only from what I've read in the declassified files. So if there are other files which are not released, I do not know about them. But
how many files are there? Any approximate number do we have?
The number given, for example, in our book, The Bose Deception, we have written, this is about Netaji's death. No life and times, only death mystery. This is also in a way to answer, to tell you how important a person Subhash Bose was. There are many people, many freedom fighters or people who took part in freedom struggle or they were active in those days. If you went to the National Archive today and looked for, records about them, you will not find anything. Because they were not much consequence to the British. So you probably will not find a file on them dedicated. You would file, maybe a dispatch from 1940 and there's a paragraph number 2 of a report of the month of January. You'll find one mention. So many of these people who are today very well known because of other variety of reasons, including political importance of that name, but they are not there in the files because the British never saw them as any threat of any consequence. Subhash Bose is somebody on whom, about whom, there were 304 or 5 files were released by Modi government.
In 2016?
16.
Right.
So these are from the PMO, MEA, MHA and Cabinet Secretary.
300 files.
305, 4 or 5 files were released by Modi government. Now before that, in 2010, 12, that period, Manmohan Singh government released about 1,100, 200 files about Subhash Bose.
So we're looking at almost 1,500.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
Now there are 990 files were released by the Ministry of Defence in 1997, which are all about IRA, including many important files about Subhash Bose's death. Okay. So these are the files coming from India. And we know there are many more files left because IB they have not touched, intelligence they have not touched, MI they have not touched. There are files. Then you go outside, do you have files about Netaji in England, UK archives? You have files about Netaji in America. We have accessed the American US Army dossier. There are files about Subhash Bose in Taiwan. There are records about Subhash Bose in Japan, of course. There are files and records about Subhash Bose in Germany. I'm not concerned with Germany and Italy because Netaji was active there. Many European countries he visited because. So there are many. Of course, that's why I know. That's how I know about them. And then there are, for example, one file I got from Australia about Subhash Bose.
From Australia.
Australia, they had some interception about communication about Subhash Bose here and there. So they were doing the interception work. So you have files about Netaji in so many countries. So this man, there are thousands of files about him. So we have seen hundreds of them, which are because our focus was the death mystery. So we did that.
So I'm going to cut you here. I want to tell everyone while Mr. Anuj is referring to the book. So we're talking about the Bose Deception. I think all of us should at this point of time right now just go and order it on Amazon. I'm assuming it's available.
It is Penguin. Penguin is a number. When I became active in early 2001, my first book came out in 2005-ish. Okay. 4, I wrote in 4, 5-ish. 5-ish it came. 5. Then the Congress party was in power. Nobody was willing to touch this issue even with a barge pole. We are living in an entirely different world today. You understand. 2004 was a different world. 2005 different world. So nobody would touch even with a barge pole. And then my other books came out. This was not a mainstream issue. So nobody would want to talk about it. And you can't get a good publisher for it.
Okay.
So now we have reached a level down, the work that we have done, Chandrachu and I, that we have reached now a level that our book is published by Penguin Random House, which is world's number 1 publisher.
Of course.
So this is a matter of prestige that Penguin Random House should be publishing a book. I never imagine, if you take me back to 2005, I think I can never imagine. I could imagine that one day a bigger publisher would publish a book, but I never imagined the Penguin Random House, giving the reputation, they would publish a book which is so much of explosive stuff is there in this book. People haven't read it, so but those who would read, they'll understand. And
no, I am definitely going.
And there's nothing I must tell you about. Everybody will. I'm a very humble person, so I don't want to talk about myself. I don't even look straight in the camera. I'm a very temperamentally very shy person. So some people I've seen, they have become body language experts. So they say this person does not look at the camera. He keeps looking at it. This is how I have been. I'm a very shy person. I shy and introvert by temperament. I was forced into this issue. Otherwise, I'm somebody who stays in home. I don't go out. Now Netaji is taking me to every nook and corner. I have traveled, I keep telling people 20 states in America I've covered from East Coast to West Coast. And but I'm temperamentally very shy and introvert. So that is why I even avoid having an eye contact with people. So this is because of my shy nature. Don't try to be a body language expert. Some people try to be. So the thing is that so everybody will say that their book is good or best, but you tell me how many books written in India with so much of classified information, declassified information has been put out, files, reference and all that. We have put so many images of documents. So don't believe me. I'm giving you a story. I'm telling you that the British wanted to do a search of the files of the hospital records in Taiwan. We've given you that record, not the record, the relevant portion. Because if I give the entire record, it would cumbersome to read. So this is something which is not done by anybody else. So only read it. So pick it up. I mean, and I don't want to demean others, but I must tell you something that there are books written on intelligence, which are out in the market. Touted very, as great explosive stuff, but I can tell you they're all cleared by Government of India, vetted and approved by the agencies. So they're not that explosive as you think they are. They're cleared by Government of India. So we are writing stuff which is on our own, not nothing with the Government of India. So read, you love it. So this is something which people would, so you don't have to be a Netaji fan because this is not about Netaji. It's more about government. How the government handled this case, what was happening in England, what was happening in India. And it covers from, mostly it's about, what has happened since 2000. So this is more about present. I'm not a person who's stuck in past.
So then I remember there were 3 odd commissions that have happened over the last 70 years, starting with Shahnawaz Khan around in mid-50s. And then after that, it was Justice KD Khosla. I could be wrong as far as the name is concerned. And the last one was Justice
Mukherjee, which is in Mukherjee's our time. So what had happened?
So what happened? I mean, what was the different findings?
There was another inquiry by S.A. Iyer, but again, Iyer but it was not a proper committee or commission, but this was also an investigation which happened. The thing is, Justice Mukherjee is our time, so I know because 99 we knew Justice Mukherjee. Chandu Chuna used to meet him, so we knew him. So and I saw the commission, function. I appeared before it. The basic difference that you have to see today that if you check any government file today, government record or note for the cabinet. So they will tell you that there was a commotion about Netaji's death mystery. So the Government of India set up a committee headed by Shri Shahnawaz Khan, who was a very close aide of Subhash Bose, and he was a former INA general. So this is the standard government narrative. Now this narrative is wrong. Wrong in a sense that the truth is that the Government of India had no interest in having any inquiry on this issue. They were
after independence.
Before independence, before transfer of power, because this issue became a talking point in late 1946. People were asking questions, even the assembly which became Parliament House afterwards. So in the assembly, question was raised about Subhash Bose's death. So the government, as long as the British were in charge, they gave out a story that we are not sure what happened. Okay. And there was a great change, and even Sardar Patel, when he became the Home Member, initially he also gave the same line. That we are not sure.
We don't know what.
We are not sure because the intelligence inquiries were not clear. Then there was a great change which happened in October 46 when Panditji made a statement publicly somewhere that I also disbelieved initially, but now I believe that he has died. So after Panditji's statement that Netaji has died in Taiwan, that became the official line. So that is the belief of Government of India now. So once Panditji has said it, so now that is the truth, and we will not entertain any other thoughts. So to say that the Government of India, keeping in mind public sentiments, formed an inquiry is nonsense. The Government of India was not at all keen to do an inquiry. They were forced. Each time there was a force, and they could not withstand the pressure. They formed a committee or commission. Otherwise, they had no idea. We have documented in the book. Year after year, they were not at all bothered about this story. They didn't want. They were always saying, he has died because Panditji has said so. So that's the story. So now with regard to Shahnawaz Khan, you have to understand again, Shahnawaz Khan was in INA for about 2 years because the entire INA is basically a 2 years period. It is not an army which is there for last 100 years. People make the mistake of comparing with the Indian army, which is a 200-year-old institution. So it's a revolutionary thing, it happened in a situation in Southeast Asia. So only for 1.5 years it was there. Netaji hardly got 2 years, 6 months of orientation to them, gave them. So different time frame. So he was Shahnawaz Khan was barely there for 2 years. In 1946 he became a Gandhi supporter.
So he changed.
Obviously, he became part of Congress. He was a congressman. Then he died in 1983 and he was a minister throughout his life. He was made a minister after his report came out on Subhash Bose's death case. So if you ask me, so rather than when the government records are saying that he was an INA man, they forget that more than INA, he was more of an Nehru's man, by the way. So he became a congressman after 1946. He spent his entire life in Congress party. Why are you calling him an INA man? He was INA only for 2 years. And the same goes for others. So his inquiry he came out with the finding that he has died in plain cash. And people became very angry. So no, this is not... there was a controversy one after another. Then in 1960s, again there was a demand to have an inquiry, and they want a commission because Shahnawaz Khan was he was a military man. He did not know the evidence part. He did not know how to understand. We must have a commission of inquiry led by a Supreme Court or a High Court judge. So then Government of India again Indira Gandhi had no intention to do an inquiry. I've given details.
Okay.
They were completely against an inquiry. But what went against them, one reason was that the excuse was given by Government of India now that so many years have gone by. Why should we do an inquiry after so many years of Subhash Bose's death? What is the point of doing an inquiry? It's been 20 years that he's died. So this was one reason given by them. So what happened in 1965-ish, they set up a Kapoor Commission of Inquiry into Mahatma Gandhi assassination. So that point was latched onto by many people. If you can set an inquiry into Gandhiji's assassination after 20 years, then why not Subhash Bose?
Okay.
Because they were having double standards. So this is one point. There are other reasons, but this was one point. And the Indira Gandhi government was compelled to form a commission of inquiry. Now again, if you see the government records, they'll tell you that Justice G.D. Khosla was an eminent judge and he was the former Chief Justice of the Punjab High Court, which is fine. But you don't tell the other part of the story. The other part of the story is that G.D. Khosla ji was a very good friend of Pandit Nehru's. G.D. Khosla ji was Indira Gandhi's biographer. Now today, suppose there's an inquiry commission about something with which BJP is linked. Okay, let's have an inquiry about what happened in Gujarat riots. Suppose there's a commission of inquiry functioning. Suppose tomorrow there's a news that the judge who's heading the inquiry, he's writing biography of Amit Shah. Will the Congress party members accept the report of that judge? Hell will break loose in the entire media. Who is this judge? Why would he even think of writing a biography of Amit Shah? Now here you have this judge, Panditji's friend, makes no bones about it. And he is Indira Gandhi's biographer. So who is this person to do an inquiry about Subhash Bose's death? And then in his report, he talked nonsense about Subhash Bose. He was even taken to court of law. He had to apologize for what he wrote. So, but his report also came to the same conclusion that Subhash Bose has died in a plane crash. The story is finished. Then it was Netaji again came in the news beginning early 90s. So what happened now? This is for your audience. Will not be able to relate, but they need to understand what had happened by this time. That 1988 around Soviet Russia began to crumble, and by 91 the Soviet Russia was finished.
Yes.
So when Russia was crumbling in the initial area that time, many of the old secrets began coming out. Tumbling out. So many old, and then if not secret, not documents, people began talking freely, which they were not doing earlier. So around this time, some Indian scholars went to Russia. Around that area, at that period of time. And then it came to light that for all these years, Indians were having, these ideas about Netaji in Russia after his presumed death. The Indians had this kind of notions. The same notions were held by Russians also. So Russians, especially those who had worked in the intelligence of Russia, whatever, they confided into Indians visiting Russia at that time, that your man was with us. And it is your government which is not keen to inquire about it. But so we have records. For example, there's a person who was who checked into the Russian intelligence GRU archive, military intelligence GRU. We often talk about KGB, but GRU probably is much more important, which is the Russian intelligence military, GRU. So he said, this is a Russian military officer, telling people. I went to the GRU archives and I came across a note, cabinet, some kind of deliberation of Stalin and Molotov, Russian Foreign Minister, and they were discussing Subhash Chandra Bose. This is like late 46, something like that, maybe beyond. But quite some time after Subhash Bose's death. And they were discussing what to do with Subhash Chandra Bose. So you have the Stalin and other discussing Netaji year after his death. and it's there in a Guru record. So this guy came across and he informed Indians. But so this is how in early 1990s there were these kind of reports were coming out. So we have detailed in our book what happened and what efforts were made by our government to find out the truth. So efforts were made, and then and on the other hand, 97 was also Netaji's birth centenary,
right,
and 50th year of India's independence. Transfer power, I call it, but normal usage is in independence. So because of these two, this combination of these two dates, the 50th year of India and the 100th year of Netaji, everything was being discussed
in 1997.
1997 and years before that. So So that time, people who believed in the plain cash story, so they, became vocal. They said, look, he has died. He cannot be alive today, 100 years. And then you have been talking for so many, decades that he did not die. And we have had, commission committee, nothing came out of it. So forget everything. Now just reconcile yourself with Netaji's death. And his ashes are lying in Japan. People who were in INA, both Japanese and who were with him and others, Indians, all dying. They're old now. So before we all die and perish, these remains of Netaji should be brought to Delhi. They should be ceremonially, and there should be a monument erected and his memory should be cherished. So this is the emotional line for a reason, right or wrong, people gave. So when such a demand was made, Mulayam Singh Yadav ji was the Raksha Mantri.
Defense Minister.
And he unwittingly, I think in one press conference, he made a statement which I came that I'll bring these ashes to India.
From Renkoji temple
from Japan to India. So when this statement was made, a gentleman filed a suit in Calcutta High Court that before bringing these ashes to India, you have to first ascertain whose ashes these are.
Okay.
Because there's a death controversy, Subhash Bose's death now. So Justice, now, don't get me wrong, because people are still not, because all of us, especially people living in North India, we all grow up thinking we have a lot of misconception about Subhash Bose. One of the misconceptions that people have about Netaji, that all Bengalis are Netaji Bhakt. No, they are not. The biggest, there's nothing of that sort. I wouldn't be sitting here if that was the case. I would have 42 MPs supporting me publicly of Bengal side. The most of Bengalis, 90% of them support Gandhiji, Nehru and Karl Marx and those people. They don't support Subhash Bose. Only about 10% support, and these people are of little consequence. So when I tell you that there's a Calcutta High Court, so don't think Bengalis are doing it, because the protocol in our country now for many years now, many decades, that the Chief Justice is not from that court. So Prabha Shankar Mishra ji, who was a Chief Justice, was not from Bengal. He was not a Bengali. He was not from Bengal, that part of the world. But he was a Chief Justice. Okay. So the matter was brought before him. And what he did, I met him. He died, but I can tell you what he wrote in his order. Prabha Shankar Mishra ji cornered the government lawyer on this issue. Now the thing about the government of India is this very clear. If you corner them in a court of law, they will tell you something else. In parliament, they'll give you different stories, and the spokesperson on TV will give you a different story. They will speak in different languages. So, but Justice Prabha Shankar Mishra cornered the government lawyer in the court. You tell me what is your stand. Forget others. इधर उधर का जुमला देगा, यहाँ की बात उधर की, जैसे टीवी में आते हैं ना, वो सब जुमले देने के लिए आते हैं, यहाँ का वहाँ उधर की बात लड़ाई करने के लिए. They don't want any conclusion. That's why people have stopped watching debates. They prefer podcasts because some clarity is there. No, there's no clarity. वो तो लड़ाई करने के लिए आते हैं. And this is all deliberate. It's deliberate. I have been to those programs. It's deliberate. It's not about कि they have come with the intention कि हम लोग.
Which is the reason why people.
जैसे मैं आपको example देता मैं एक टीवी की डिबेट में गया था.
अच्छा.
तो उस टीवी की डिबेट में उसमें हुआ क्या था कि we had leveled an allegation against government of India about Netaji issue.
Okay.
And this allegation pertained to CFSL Calcutta कि आपने गलत रिपोर्ट दी है, ठीक है, DNA की. तो topic is that is a discussion topic. That is we are discussing today. This happened in Calcutta. But the same thing happens everywhere. So we are discussing. There's a panel discussion on why CFSL Calcutta is not doing this. Okay, that is the story. So we are people, panelists, so there are 3 or 4. All of us speak the same voice. We are not in politics. So we all say, no, this is wrong. And the government should answer this question. And the government is doing something wrong. Then you have the BJP spokesperson and the TMC spokesperson. Now to you, they are BJP and TMC. To me, both are Gandhi Bhakts. Both have the common agenda to promote Gandhian values in the entire world. So while we were discussing this, the TMC fellow attacks Savarkar. And the BJP fellow attacks Pandit Nehru. And the whole debate is derailed. It is done deliberately. They will do nothing about Panditji is dead and gone. Whatever Panditji did is there in the book. You can read and understand. But the issue right now is not Panditji. Panditji is gone. Panditji तो पहुंच गए स्वर्ग के अंदर. अभी मोदी जी क्या करेंगे? हमारा मेन मुद्दा मोदी जी, हमारा मुद्दा पंडित जी नहीं है इस पे.
मोदी जी ने तो कर तो दिया.
अभी आऊंगा उस पर, अभी आऊंगा. वो भी तो वो डिस्कशन पे हो ही नहीं रही अभी तो हम लोग, आप मेरे पंडित जी के पीछे पड़े लोग सारे के सारे. पंडित जी 1964 में जा चुके हैं. पंडित जी स्वर्ग में चले गए. पंडित जी को छोड़ो. पंडित जी ने जो किया आपके सामने चिट्ठा पत्र है, पढ़ लीजिए, जो हो गया. अभी पंडित जी भी हमारे बीच में नहीं है. सावरकर जी का इस केस से कुछ लेना नहीं है. ये दोनों के दोनों जो गांधी भक्त हैं, वहां पे हों या यहाँ पे टीवी के चैनल में हो, ये इनकी स्ट्रेटेजी है कि किसी डिस्कशन को अब होने मत दो.
ऑलराइट,
ठीक है, उंगलियां दे के यहाँ पे लड़ाइयाँ करा के और चलते फिरते बनो वहां से करके. तो वहाँ तो ये प्रॉब्लम डिरेल हो जाती है वहाँ पे. तो वहाँ मैं आपको जो कहानी बता रहा हूँ कि प्रभाशंकर मिश्रा देन कॉर्नर्ड द गवर्नमेंट लॉयर, सेड व्हाट इज योर स्टैंड.
Which year again?
This is 98.
Acha.
Now the problem, the government lawyer, the thing was then at that time, Devi Gowda was the prime minister.
Acha.
So there's another thing that we have noticed that each and every time there's a non-Congress government in Delhi, people are able to speak their mind, or they are able to do something. As I was telling you that, whenever each time there's a non-Congress government, things are moved. Even the governments have been, in a sense, cooperative.
Okay.
So, for example, you talk to Russia about Netaji. This has been a demand for a long time. So this became possible only when VP Singh became the prime minister. So we had some progress in this case, big development in Morarji Bhai's time, some development in VP Singh's time. So now when we come to this point in 98, when the Prabhashankar Mishra is in the court, he cornered the government lawyer, asked him, what is your stand? So Devi Gowda ji was the prime minister then.
Achha.
So obviously the lawyer probably could speak his mind. He couldn't have if the Congress party weren't part, because we have example from the Congress side also, Congress era also. So he or she rather, I think it was she. So the government lawyer was forced, and then they were asked to take a stand. So they took the stand, very clear stand, and it is there part of the court ruling. That there's a story about Netaji's death in a plane crash, but it is riddled with loopholes and contradictions. So the government itself admitted in court of law that there was a problem in the plane crash story. And Justice Prabhashankar Mishra ji, he said, no, you yourself admitting that there's something wrong. So that means the previous commission, whatever finding they have done, you are not in agreement. So you agree in front of me, there's problem in the evidence. So have an inquiry done again.
Okay.
And find out what happened to this man and these ashes in Japan are his or not, before you even think of bringing them in India. So by the time the court order came, Atal Bihari Vajpayee had become the prime minister.
98.
And so we have discussed in our book, there was a meeting called, this issue of Netaji's death was in the remit of the ME from the Panditji's time till about 67. One thing you should know, that Panditji was, throughout his tenure, he was the foreign minister. When Panditji was prime minister, throughout he was the foreign minister.
He was holding foreign minister as well as the prime minister.
So they were deputy foreign minister, but Panditji himself was a foreign minister. So this Netaji death issue was always in the remit of foreign ministry till about 67, when it was moved to the home ministry. So Atalji's government, Advani ji was the home minister. So there was a meeting which took place, a top secret meeting, in which they called some people who were linked to Subhash Bose, for example, the Lakshmi Sehgal, who was in the INA, and Netaji's nephew, Shishir Kumar Bose, a Congress party leader, and others. So most people were in favor of having no inquiry. He said he has died. So because these people had a clear stand. Lakshmi Sehgal had become part of the Communist Party, and her background is not that good as people think. We have given, her Janam Patri in this book, page 1991 पे पढ़िए पढ़ लीजिए क्या लिखा, मैं क्या बोलूँ अपने मुँह से.
Okay.
तो उनका, they were for the view that no inquiry. But then Soli Sorabji, who was the Attorney General, he put his foot down. He said, no, there should be an inquiry. This is not done because the court ruling is very clear. So there was an inquiry commission formed. And from this time on, I know well because I was active. So Justice Manoj Kumar Mukherjee was selected by a Supreme Court Chief Justice the name was given, that he should be tasked with the inquiry. Now, there are all kind of judges. There are judges about whom we can't even discuss. So they are like any other human being. So there are good or bad people everywhere. So Mukherjee had a very good background in the sense that he was non-controversial. He kept it to himself. Typical stiff upper lip kind of a person. He won't talk to you. He will just nod if you say something to him. He would remain confined to his own fraternity. His father was a lawyer. He himself was a very well-known lawyer before he became a judge. His younger brother is still a very leading lawyer in Calcutta High Court.
Okay.
His sister was also a lawyer. Another brother is a I think he was part of the Lakshmi Mittal board of directors in London. And his nephew was one of the people who died in this missing that Malaysian plane which had went missing.
Okay.
So Justice Mukherjee's nephew also vanished.
Malaysian Airlines.
Yeah, Justice Mukherjee's nephew also, unfortunately, was one of the people. He and his wife, Chinese wife, they died. The children survived. So he has no axe to grind, and he went by the rule book that I will only look into this case, whatever it is. So.
And we're talking about 1990.
This is about again 1990 and when the commission was set up because of the High Court ruling. Because
after Vajpayee ji became the Prime Minister.
Because of the court ruling, because of the situation changed in the 1990s and this commission happened. So now from what happened, I'll take you to year 2011ish or something. I and Chandrachud were sitting with Justice Mukherjee. We were talking to him in Calcutta in residence in Salt Lake. So he told us one thing, look, I had many reasons to reject the plain cash story, but in my book, in my report, I have considered only on the evidence part. And the point which I think has the highest evidentiary value, that thing I have touched. Now, what was the way of looking at the whole thing? Remember I told you about, this Saif Ali Khan being taken to hospital and there are contradictions. So people are disputing it. This is how you look at it. If you've seen something happening with your own eyes, your account would match. So Justice Mukherjee, what he did was that his approach was very simple, straightforward. Is that he said that that before him, the way people approached Netaji death case was like this: that there was a plane crash in Taiwan and Netaji died in it. Justice Mukherjee, explained, no, this is not like that. It is like this: that there was a plane crash in which Netaji was injured. Netaji was taken to a hospital. He was treated there. He died. Then he was, according to the law, the protocols and the rules, regulation in force, he was cremated in Taiwan. And then his remains were sent to Japan. So story is not of a plane crash and his death. The story, and this is all coming from the Japanese side. So the story has clear, distinct 4 parts. Now, the last part you leave aside because that is where the DNA testing comes in. So that is a separate part. But so if Netaji was injured in a plane crash in Taipei. He was taken to a hospital where he was treated. So there were doctors who treated him. And then he died and then he was cremated. And what Justice Mukherjee did was that insofar as the plane crash is concerned, that there is no direct evidence. That even Americans said, because there is no evidence of the plane crash.
So there was no plane crash.
I'll come to it. There was, of course, no plane crash. But what I'm saying, we are going from evidence point of view, that there was the evidence, there is no evidence of plane crash. The only evidence you have is the eyewitness accounts. And these eyewitness accounts are full of loopholes and contradictions, which even Government of India accepted, even before the Mukherjee Commission. These accounts are not reliable. So you set aside. Now, Justice Mukherjee, what he did, he focused on the hospitalization of Subhash Bose, his treatment in hospital, and his cremation. And that is where he found the evidence. Netaji was never brought to any hospital. He was never treated. He was never cremated.
So there were no
the whole
records.
Story collapses. Because if you think the story is that Netaji died in a plane crash, that's not the story. The story as given out by the Japanese was that he was injured in the plane crash. He didn't die he died because of the plane crash, but he didn't die in the plane.
He was taken to
hospital. He was injured. He was treated by 2 Japanese doctors, 2 or 3. They looked after him. There were other people who were there. And they all appeared before commission committee and before the British interrogator. They said, made all these statements. They were local Taiwanese who were the president there. So he was taken to hospital, according to the Japanese, treated there, and he died. And according to the rules in force, which are again, the sources are very clear, that there were rules in force. This is how the body would be cremated. You have to have a death certificate for it. And you have to have a commission permit for it. And after the commission, your name will be written on a commission register. So then Justice Mukherjee gets into it. He finds that Subhash Bose was never cremated. He was never brought to hospital. Story is finished.
So there is no cremation report. There is no hospital report.
There is no proof of his being brought to hospital. There is no proof of his being there in hospital. There is no proof that he was cremated. The story falls flat.
Which is the official story of Government of
This
India.
Is evidence point of view. This is evidence
2025.
Yeah. I can give you multiple other examples. There are British reports, there are American reports. This is a CIA report. This is a separate thing. But if you look from the evidence point of view, that you are saying that he was brought to the hospital. No, there is no proof that he was brought to hospital. You are saying that when he died, you issued a death certificate. Answer: there's no proof that you issued a death certificate for him. Number thing, you are saying that he was cremated in Taiwan and we issued a cremate permit for it. No, there is no proof that you issued a cremate permit.
Was there any last photograph taken of Subhash Chandra
There
Bose?
was one picture taken, but the face was covered.
And when was that photograph
That was taken about a day or two after the I think immediately after the death. And Justice Mukherjee has reasoned it very clearly that this is what happened. He found very clear evidence that a Japanese soldier by the name of Ichiro Okura died, and his body was used as Netaji's body as a part of the escape plan. So the picture which you see of Netaji's dead body, which is there in the Shahnawaz Committee report, is actually the picture of the dead body of Ichiro Okura.
So Shahnawaz Committee is the first thing that happened immediately after independence.
It's a second thing which happened.
Second thing, okay.
So they have a picture. If you see the Shahnawaz Committee report, there's a picture of Netaji's dead body. I'll send you the picture. You can show it to people. But there's no body. I mean, there's a body, but it is
no
covered.
Face.
The face is not clearly. And it makes no sense. Why should you have a picture without the...
And we're talking about the most powerful man.
Whatever. So even the now we have in our new book, we have given, for example... And,
is the photograph available in the pic in your book?
Yes, it is available. Yes.
Okay.
It is there in the Shahnawaz Committee. It is part of the government record. Because Japanese supplied these reports to these pictures to the Americans.
So the British government, the CIA, all of them absolutely reject the plane crash theory.
Well, let me take it in a different way. I'll come to that thing. We will come to the CIA and these other issues. But so Justice Mukherjee was able to demonstrate that there was no no plane crash. Sorry, no hospitalization, nothing, and it is not adding up. And so he rejected the entire plane crash story. Now Chandrasekhar and I, we have added a new dimension to the case now.
Okay.
Now, if you go back to the Japanese version, which I was telling you, the version was not that Subhash Chandra Bose died and plane. No, the version was very clear that on 17th August evening, Subhash Chandra Bose boarded a plane which was carrying a lieutenant general to some place. That's what I said. That's what the Japanese said, isn't it? So this is General Tsunemasa Shidei, a very well-known, famous general of Japan. Okay, and he could speak Russian, by the way, this man. So General Shidei, the Netaji was actually Netaji and Habibur Rahman were put on a plane which was essentially carrying General Shidei. So far as that journey is concerned, the main man is Shidei. And and according to Japanese, the next day there was a plane crash in which injured were taken to hospital, but they died. Subhash Bose and Shidei died. They both were cremated in Taiwan, and their ashes were sent to Tokyo. So the story, like Justice Mukherjee reasoned, there are 4 parts of it. We are adding another dimension to it now. The story is not only of Subhash Bose's death. It is also, in fact, it is more the story of the death of General Shidei.
And why was that guy so important?
Because according to Japanese, that Netaji died, Japanese said so. And then the witnesses, corroborated that particular evidence, the line of theory. So according to the Japanese and according to the witnesses, Subhash Chandra Bose was put in a plane which was carrying General Shidei, and this was the plane which crashed. Both Subhash Bose and General Shidei were, one of them was treated. They were taken to hospital and they died, and they were cremated. Both of them were cremated in Taiwan, and their ashes were sent to Tokyo.
Rinpoche Temple.
So you are saying both of them died together. Okay. So now there's a twist that we found out. Not we. We have many. The thing with me that for whatever reason, younger people are very keen into what we are doing. So I've got a lot of young people who are supporting me, also helping research.
Oh, nice.
Nowadays. So there's a young boy. He's like first year, Siddharth Rathi, in Panipat. So Siddharth, what he was doing? He was Googling. And this problem about Shidei has been there for quite some time. There was no evidence of his death actually. So if there's very little evidence of Netaji's death, there's absolutely no evidence of Shidei's death. So we were also intrigued by what happened to Shidei actually. Our assumption was that Shidei also must have left Russia with Subhash Bose because he was a Russian, he could speak Russian. But this twist happened, this boy was searching somewhere, and accidentally, as luck would have it, he landed on some Chinese military websites.
Okay.
And he came across that the Chinese have a different view of this entire story. In the sense, the Chinese are not bothered about Netaji. Chinese, have a long-standing enmity with the Japanese. And especially with regard to Second World War, still they have enmity. So what the Chinese websites, so I did, of course, Chanduch and I did more research and we were able to access more information using our sources in China and other parts of the world. And that what these Chinese military websites and all over Chinese website, what they're saying essentially is coming out from certain books written by some reputed historians of China who are reputed military historians. And of them, the ones that we are quoting, they wrote, their book came out, Pillar of, God knows I'm forgetting the name, but then, the difficult to recall these names. These are reputed Chinese historians. And and some of the books have, the book that we are citing, of course, published by the PLA Press.
Okay.
So it's as good as official. There's a Chinese military. These are not only these guys are veterans of Chinese military. The books are encyclopedias are published by the Chinese military itself. So it's as good as official. So they are telling. So there's a Subhash Bose in the story. According to the Chinese, they killed General Shidei in a different place in different circumstances. Try and understand this. The Japanese say that Subhash Chandra Bose was put in a plane which was carrying General Shidei, and then both of them died together. Okay, so the death of Subhash Bose is also the death of General Shidei. That is the top government of Japan view. Okay, now government of India has fully backed it. We are fully backing this thing. Government of India also say कि General Shidei and Subhash Bose both died together.
दोनों उसी दिन गए.
ठीक है? Now the Chinese, who have no axe to grind in this case, their view is that Shidei was killed elsewhere. They killed him. He was not there. Your story is finished. When you consider the fact that both the government of Japan and government of India have been caught lying on this case previously, numerous occasions. I have nothing. I have no reason to disbelieve the Chinese account. I would disbelieve what Indian and Japanese are saying, so because we have reason to disbelieve them. Indian government and the Japanese say that Shidei and Subhash Bose were killed together. The Chinese are saying that they killed Shidei elsewhere. So he was not there.
This Japanese general, was he also taken to the hospital officially according to the Japanese?
According to the official account, there is a major contradictions. According to one account, one witness said that he saw Shidei being brought to hospital. Doctor said no. Another person said no. We rather buried him at the airport itself. So there are different accounts. So by most accounts he died in the plane crash, but he was cremated there. All of them agreeing that he was cremated there, but nobody attended his cremation. When Shidei, there's a protocol. Subhash Bose and General Shidei, they arrive in Taiwan airport. The protocol is to receive them. He was a lieutenant general. Okay, it's very well known at that. The two top commanders of the Japanese army, and who are the head, who are running the Taiwan government. So Ando committed suicide. Leave him aside. The other one, Isayama, was alive. He appeared before Shahnawaz committee, and he was grilled by Shahnawaz Khan. He said, did you go to receive your friend? Because he was a batchmate of Shidei. I didn't go. Why? No answer. He did no answer for why you did not go and receive your friend. And it's a protocol. You have to receive your fellow military officer. He didn't go to his cremation. Imagine your batchmate dies, you are in the same area, you don't even attend his cremation. So, and even Shahnawaz was not able to make sense of it. He said, why is that? That was very strange. I mean, your batchmate is coming, the protocol is to receive him. You don't go there. You don't attend his cremation. So now it's very clear. The reason why I didn't go, because he never arrived. Because we find no evidence of Subhash Bose and Shidei together. It's a Japanese fiction that they were together. He was never there. Shidei was elsewhere. So what has come to us, to now become clear to us, that the Japanese have simply, Shidei died because of entirely different circumstances. His death was made use of by Japanese, and they just put Subhash Bose in the story. They needed a cover story, so they got a cover story. That's what it is. So Shidei's death is now very clear-cutly to show that his death proves that he did not die with Subhash Bose, and therefore the Japanese and Indians are lying.
So now coming back to Justice Mukherjee, so he says that there are no records available, nothing. Then what happens? Was it
the record? For example, the records, the story again. Some people are trying to confuse the whole thing by saying, just because there are no records, he's saying he did not die. No, it's not like that. As I said, that when the British did the investigation in 45 and early 46, they came to same conclusion more or less that you have to go to Taiwan and do an inquiry and look for the hospital records. For whatever reason, they were not able to do it. Now, In 1946, there are 2 or 3 non-state actors in this game. In 1946, when interim government had come, most people are not aware, especially the younger people. We did not become suddenly on 15th of August 47 we took charge. No, several months before it we were in charge. There was an interim government in place. So Panditji was already leading the government of India.
I have this
Sardar Patel was already the home member before 15th of August 47. So they were already in charge for several months. So in 46 late, when it was very clear the Angrez are going to leave, there were questions about Subhash Bose's death. In that circumstances, an Indian person who was a journalist, probably was given the cover of a journalist. He was a journalist, but then he went in that guise, but he did an inquiry and he looked for the records. And he found out that the records were not there. There was no records in Subhash Bose's name, as the journalists were claiming. So he gave a report to the Indian government.
Okay.
The report has vanished. And so you leave that aside. Even if you leave that aside, by 1951, Government of India, I'm talking about Panditji's level. So we have given the record here. So not just I'm saying so, it's Government of India record. By 1951, the Government of India at Panditji was aware that the records in Taiwan do not support the Japanese line.
So I have this very important question for you. We are talking about the person who was bigger than Mahatma Gandhi.
No, before we come to that, we must complete because this is. I'm sorry, but this is very bit complicated because it has taken me a long time to understand. That's why somebody have to read the book and understand. So 551, even the Government of India knows that the records in Taiwan are not supporting the Japanese version. That means there's something wrong with the Japanese version. So what they did, they hush up again. They didn't say anything, kept their mouth shut. Then the Shahnawaz committee is formed. When the Shahnawaz committee is formed, the same line comes up. You have to go to Taiwan, do an inquiry there, look for the records. So the Government of India, Panditji tells Shahnawaz, you cannot go there. Okay. So, but don't go, you are not going, but we will ask, and the Government of India decided that they will ask the British to do an inquiry there. Okay. So in 1956, there was an inquiry done at the behest of the British by the local Taiwanese. And they came across the evidence which directly and indirectly again proves that the Japanese version is not believable. There is no direct evidence of Subhash Bose's death. Now the British, because this inquiry was done at the behest of the British, so British gave Indian government that report. Okay, this was in 1956. What Indian government does, it hush it up. Till today, they don't even admit that report exists. How do I know it? Because the investigation was done at the behest of the British. So British declassified their files. So if you go to the British archives, the National Archives of England in Kew, London, you find that report there. So and that report, it mentions in the end that we gave Government of India 5 copies of this report. So you got 5 copies of the report. I never heard about it. It's not part of the records. You never showed it to Justice Mukherjee. Mukherjee was very angry. He said, this is what I got from England.
That we have declassified it and given it to Indian government, but Indian government does not.
Indian government has hushed it up. There's that information. Then comes Justice Mukherjee. Now Justice Mukherjee's entire inquiry is again about going to Taiwan and confirm from ground and look for records. That's the entire inquiry. Now throughout, we have explained in the book, given example, throughout the Government of India is doing nothing but creating obstacles in his path. They do not want in fact, the same thing happened before Shahnawaz, the Costa Commission. Inquiry has to happen in Taiwan. Inquiry should be focused around locating records because Japanese said that we left records. Okay. So the Government of India does not want, they did not allow the Shahnawaz Committee to visit Taiwan. They were not in favor of Justice Khosla going there. Eventually, because of public pressure, they allowed him to go, but they gave him clear instruction, don't talk to Taiwanese, which he did. Which is nonsensical. I come to do a country A, B, C, D, and I want to inquire about certain case which happened 20 years earlier. I have to go to and talk to the government's records are with the government only. He refused to do it, and he said, I will not talk to the government here. So that inquiry was hushed up. Then comes Justice Mukherjee. Justice Mukherjee, same problem. The Government of India did not allow him.
But we're talking about Vajpayee.
I'm talking about Vajpayee.
But you just told earlier.
So that's why I said this is a cover up. I've never pinpointed. I've not cleared everybody. By the way, so people think that I'm only attacking Panditji. That's wrong. We are attacking everybody. We're not attacking just a Pandit Nehru. And the ball is in Modiji's court right now. So it's not about Panditji anymore.
But there are certain things.
So the thing happened. Now let me finish this line because this is the evidence part of this is a bit confusing, but this is how it is. Government of India did not allow Justice Mukherjee to visit Taiwan initially. And then I became active. I was a journalist. I knew that they have a trade mission in Delhi, in Vasant Vihar. And that is technically their embassy. This name is given a different nomenclature, but this is embassy of Taiwan. I, through some connections, approached them and I put this before them, ki there's something. And so they advised me that after some time, you write to our president and the mayor of Taiwan. So I wrote emails to them requesting them on behalf of Indians and given our sentimental and other attachment to Netaji that you should tell and you should tell us what happened or whatever. So the president of Taiwan forwarded my email to the minister concerned, Minister of Transport and Transport and Communication. He sent me an email that we have checked all records, Japanese records, and there was no plane crash in the entire 1 month in that part of the world. There was only one plane crash, which was about 200 miles away, involving American POWs. So this is Taiwanese minister telling me, and so I have no reason to disbelieve him. I will not believe these buggers sitting in North Block. एक नंबर का झूठा मक्कार आदमी है, ये झूठ बोलता है सुभाष बोस के बारे में. I will believe them on all other issues, on Kashmir, on other issues. These are my people. But on नेताजी इशू एक नंबर के झूठे मक्कार लोग बैठे हैं दिल्ली के अंदर. ये पॉलिटिक्स बीच में लेकर आते हैं नेताजी के नाम पे. उसका आपको I'll come to that reason कि why they're doing so. तो I have no reason to disbelieve Taiwanese. तो उन्होंने बोला कि यहाँ कोई प्लेन क्रैश नहीं. तो I forwarded those emails to Justice Mukherjee office. And Justice Mukherjee's office then contacted the Taiwanese government, forwarding my emails. So there was a direct link between...
Which year would this be?
This is 2002-03.
Okay.
Justice Mukherjee's inquiry commission and Taiwanese government then had direct link through email. When Government of India came to know that there was a direct communication, they became very angry. They said, don't talk to them. If you want something, you ask us, we will get it done. You don't have to go and talk to them. Okay. So Mukherjee stopped. Then for next 6 months, government did nothing. Thereafter, he has to remind them again, look, this case is lying, there's nothing is happening and you're also not doing anything about it. You stopped, so we are not communicating, but you also are not doing anything about it. Eventually, what happened that Justice Mukherjee Commission wrote to the Government of India that essentially we need a register of cremation permit, cremation permit and cremation register. That is what we need from Taiwan. So you talk to Japanese and talk to Taiwanese and get us that record. That is very important record for proving or disapproving Subhash Bose's death. Because Japanese said that he died. If he died, his name would be there in the register.
Of course.
Because Japanese have maintained records there. So they went to Japanese first. And Japanese start dilly-dallying. Can you imagine? Japan is a first world country. The first world country in Asia.
Right.
Japanese response was, how difficult it is to locate 50-year-old records.
Who said that?
Japanese government said to Indian government. When they were asked about give me the records of Subhash Bose's death and cremation permit in Taiwan, which you created, their answer was, it's very, we are trying our best, but how difficult it is to locate 50-year-old records. And this is coming from a country like Japan. I've given 2 counters in this book just to demonstrate I think the Japanese need to understand how to maintain records because we are great guns in this case. Musharraf Saab came to India, you know that? When Musharraf, I'm talking Manmohan Singh's time.
Acha, okay, after.
So Manmohan Singh time, Musharraf Saab came. Musharraf was not he was not from the royal family of Mughals. So he was born in Delhi in 1946.
Ghar dikhaya tha.
So there was an idea here to gift him his birth record or some souvenir from that era. And we made a search. NDMC was able to locate in no time Musharraf Saab birth certificate, 46 his brother and sisters also. And he was given to him. And then we made public statement and the NDMC has made a statement that we have all records of any Tom, Dick and Harry who has lived and died in Delhi. 1917 or intact lying here.
1917?
Yeah. They're online. And these guys sitting in Japan, first world country, which is running
far more advanced
bullet train for last 50 years and we still don't have it. And they say we don't have records. It's difficult to locate. Another example, I did not know Mark Tully, the famous BBC journalist. I did not know he was born in India. I thought he was posted here. So that's why he knows so much about us. No, he was born here. He was born in Calcutta. So Mark Tully wanted to have his OCI card. Overseas citizen of India, because it's easy for when you go back to some other country, when you return, so OCI card is very helpful. It's no visa required. So Mark Tully Saab wanted his OCI card. The thing, he was born in Calcutta in 1934. So he went to Calcutta. He asked for his record. निकल आया 2 मिनट में. हाउ डिफिकल्ट इज इट? हमने किताब में डेमोन्स्ट्रेट किया कि there are certain top secret files about Netaji's death which were missing or were destroyed. And which records survived? Records of the PN's file, who were working for the Khosta Commission. TA bills की फाइल, अखबार की बिल की फाइलें पड़ी हैं. अच्छा बेटा, चपड़ासियों की फाइलें तुमने बचा के रखी हुई हैं और टॉप सीक्रेट फाइल को फूक दिया आप लोगों ने. हमें पागल समझते हैं आप. सो ओपन एंड शट केस, अगर ये नेताजी ना हो, इसमें कोई अर्बन नक्सल हो, मान लीजिए कि सुभाष बोस नहीं हो, and if some urban naxal is involved, then the entire Jamaat will stand by me and I'll go to Supreme Court tonight. Unfortunately, this is not urban naxal, so there's no support system. So no Prashant Bhushan is going to stand for me. Otherwise, you go to court and you screw Government of India on this issue. Open and shut case, they're lying through the teeth. Then the Japanese, said we have no records. They were not able to give records. With regard to Taiwan, something very serious happened. There's a body called ITA, India Taiwan Association. This is our embassy there, okay? The name is given as different. So ITA was then headed by Vijay Gokhale ji. Vijay Gokhale ji then became after our foreign secretary, and I think right now is in National Security Council. So this is in writing. What can I do? I'm just telling you, and it's there in the book. The entire detail is there available. Gokhale Sahab, the ITA head, conveyed to New Delhi that we have spoken with the government of Taiwan. And we have asked for the records, and they have told us, among other things, that the cremation register is not available here. These records are not available. Cremation register is not available here. Among other records, this record is a very important. So, cremation register is not available here. Gokhale Saab sends this letter to Government of India. Once and twice confirms it. Shown to Justice Mukherjee also. Then Justice Mukherjee somehow is able to go to Taiwan. He goes and talks to Taiwanese government. 15 days, the same record is available. Cremation register record is available, and it shows that neither Subhash Bose nor Shidei, nobody was cremated in Taiwan.
So here I'm going to play.
Please understand, till the last, the government of India is ensuring that you don't come to know what is there in Taiwan. You are telling a lie to Commission that we spoke to the government of Taiwan and they told us the cremation register is not available. It is in writing, the government documents is there. But when Justice Mukherjee goes to Taiwan, he does an inquiry. He's given those records by Taiwanese government. That means you were lying. So right from the day 46 to 2005-ish, the entire investigation about Netaji's death is all about going to Taiwan and looking for records. And there are no records. There are records. Some people are trying to confuse it. He said, no, record must have been destroyed. First of all, Japanese never said that we destroyed records. Number one. Number two, records are there. Any Tom, Dick and Harry who died in Taiwan in August 45, his cremation register, his name is there.
Except for
those who were supposedly killed in that plane crash. So records are there, please understand. People are trying to confuse by saying that there are absence of record does not mean that there was no plane crash. There are records of that era, which Japanese said are there. But in those records, there is no mention of Subhash Bose, there is no mention of Shidei, and nobody else's death. Now we understand why Shidei's name is not there, because he never died there. The reason why Subhash Bose is not
believe the Chinese theory.
Hence the Chinese theory is much more credible. I don't believe or disbelieve, but they are much more credible. Because they have no reason to tell lies. People sitting in New Delhi are been telling lies. I can tell you that thing for last 50 years.
अब दूसरा सवाल.
So the plane crash story is out. Justice Mukherjee's findings summarized.
Right.
No plane crash.
But what happened to those Renkoji temple?
I'll come to that. Yes. So what Justice Mukherjee found out was that no plane crash. The story of a plane crash was planted by Japanese and Subhash Chandra Bose.
Japanese and Subhash Chandra Bose.
They planted Netaji's already, because Subhash Bose had to be taken to a secure area. And that secure area was Russia. Justice Mukherjee said he went towards Russia. He was on the way to Russia when this crash happened. But I cannot prove it because he was not given access to the story of the Russian records, intelligence records. So this is and he said that a body of a Japanese soldier was passed off as body of Subhash Bose. So the ashes which are now lying in Renkoji temple in Japan are the ashes of that Japanese soldier. These are not Subhash Bose's remains.
So in 2025, I'm saying we are sitting in 2025. Those ashes still remain there of that XYZ person.
The ashes of Renkoji temple are there, but there's a big tamasha on that now.
Okay.
Which is we have disclosed in our book. And the thing is that because each of these things that I'm discussing, they are chapters by themselves.
I'm going to cut you here. Whatever I've read, done our little research, Indian government was supporting.
I'm coming to that. The thing is, each
this is going to be exciting.
This is also a problem for me in trying explaining these things, because when I'm giving a presentation PowerPoint, I have visuals to support, so I can somehow make it much more clear to people. The problem is that each of the thing that we're talking about, for example, the intelligence inquiry, these are chapters by themselves. So maybe a time should come when you should put me, Anuj, question, tell me only about Habib Verma's interrogation, because there are multiple reports of his interrogations. So these are chapters by them. So I have to summarize the entire spectrum of Habib Verma's interrogation into 2 lines, 2 bytes. So sometimes, people also find difficult to digest. What I'm telling you is on the basis of reading of hundreds and thousands of papers lying scattered. Of course, somebody wants to have a clarity, it's there in the book. But when I'm speaking extempore, of course, it becomes sometimes very confusing. The thing is, about the 1951-52, our mission in Tokyo, our embassy, we did not have a proper embassy until about 52. But whatever mission that we had, it went and took possession of these ashes in Renkoji temple. That means the ashes, then we asked the temple priest, you keep it with you. When time comes, we will take it from you. So physical custody is with the temple priest, but we have the overall possession. There's no Japanese government in between. Okay, we keep them informed, but the ashes are in the custody of Government of India. Physical possession is given to the temple priest. Now, what happened going forward in 1967, J.M. Dixit, who eventually became Foreign Secretary of India, he wrote a letter to Delhi that the temple priest is becoming very edgy, because it's a nuisance for him to keep these remains of a person, and then the people Indians keep coming, keep disturbing, and so many, and others also come. So there was the gentleman who was heading the East Asia division of the MEA had a brainwave. He has a good idea. He said, पैसे खिलाओ उसको. I'm doing in Hindi, but उसने अंग्रेजी में लिखा था. इसको पैसे खिलाओ.
ये किसने बोला?
बताओ, जो MEA का जो हेड था, उसका वो डिवीजन का हेड था, ईस्ट एशिया डिवीजन का, के.आर. नारायणन. तो नारायणन साहब ने बोला कि इनको पैसे खिलाओ. ठीक है. तो नारायण साहब बाद में कांग्रेस पार्टी ज्वाइन कर गए थे, बाद में राष्ट्रपति बने हमारे देश के. तो सारे आजकल बीजेपी के लोगों को राष्ट्रपति बताते हैं, लेकिन वो ये नहीं बताते कि ये आदमी कांग्रेस में था बीच में. ठीक है थी. पंडित जी ने इसको डालता विदेश मंत्रालय के अंदर. पंडित जी का बड़ा खासम खास था, और ये बाद में कांग्रेस पार्टी का MP रहा है, उसके बाद में राष्ट्रपति बना है. अब तो ऐसे बोलते जैसे कि उसका बैकग्राउंड ही कुछ नहीं विचारेगा. तो ये कांग्रेसी ने ये बोला कि इनको पैसे खिलाओ.
राइट.
तो 1967 से लेके आज तक भारत सरकार सीक्रेटली रनकोजी टेम्पल को पैसा देती.
Even in 2025?
They must be giving, because I have not they've stopped. Top secret. So top secret. Again, इसमें किताब में लिखा हुआ है.
No, but do we have valid proofs to?
हाँ, वो मतलब we have valid proof till about 2006.
So जो हम income tax दे रहे हैं, जो हम GST दे रहे हैं, वो इसके लिए यूज हो रहा है.
मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ 2000, क्योंकि फाइलें जो पब्लिक हुई हैं 2006 तक की हुई है ना, उसके आगे तो मुझे पता है, लेकिन 2006 तक तो वो साफ दिखाई दे रहा है.
2006 तक
क्योंकि उसमें रिसिप्ट वगैरह सारी अवेलेबल हैं, और लेटर्स हैं सारे के सारे कि मैंने पैसा दिया. और लेटर लिखने वाले कौन है? जो हमारे वहाँ जो मिशन से हमारी एम्बेसी चिट्ठी आ रही है, और वो चिट्ठी में हमारे फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी मेंशन कर रहे हैं, हमारी चिट्ठियों में हमारे एम्बेसडर मेंशन कर रहे हैं. ये हमारी किताब में हमें किसी छोटे मोटे बंदे का नाम ही नहीं दिया मैंने. इस किताब में जो रेफरेंस आ रहे हैं किसी छोटे भैया बंदे के तो आ ही नहीं रहे हैं. फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी, होम सेक्रेटरी से नीचे तो हम जाते नहीं. हम तो टॉप लेवल के बंदों की बात कर रहे हैं. नेताजी का ये कोई छोटा मोटा केस नहीं है. तो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू गो बाय स्टेटमेंट मेड बाय सम जूनियर ऑफिशियल गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. आई एम कमिंग टू द हाईएस्ट लेवल. एनीबॉडी लेस देन जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी, आई एम नॉट इवन कंसर्न्ड. तो ये स्टेटमेंट जो कि रनकोजी टेम्पल में हम पैसा दे रहे हैं, इट इज प्रूवन बाय मल्टीपल रिकॉर्ड्स विच आर कमिंग फ्रॉम द एम्बेसी ऑफ इंडिया इन जापान, and they are reference to it in the correspondence, involving foreign secretary and our ambassadors in Japan. So not a small thing.
So roughly 40 years we've paid.
We are paying money. No, the thing is not that. वो अलग कहानी. क्यों पे कर रहे हैं वो, I understand reason. I support some of these reasons. तो वो आप उसको छोड़ दीजिए. लेकिन कहानी है, जो इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी ये है कि साल 2006 में, ये अगेन डॉक्यूमेंट्स गवर्नमेंट के लगे हुए, 2006 में गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को पार्लियामेंट में सवाल पूछा गया कि क्या आप रनकोजी टेम्पल को पैसा देते हो? Are you giving money to
2006 में पूछा गया.
2006 they were asked,
Manmohan Singh government.
Yeah, are you giving money to this temple or not? So the moment the information reaches the MEA, their instant reaction is to, the foreign secretary calls up the top official of the Rajya Sabha and tells him drop the issue, drop the question. ये question को drop कराओ. This is the first reaction. ये क्वेश्चन ड्रॉप कराइए। उसने कहा जी क्वेश्चन ड्रॉप नहीं कर सकते, अब लिस्ट में आ गया। ठीक है, आई एम कोटिंग फ्रॉम द रिकॉर्ड्स, आई एम पैराफ्रेजिंग बट दीज आर रिकॉर्ड्स, मैंने फोटोकॉपी भी लगा के रिकॉर्ड्स की। सो देन दे हैव इंटरनल डिस्कशन and they reach a conclusion, this is a top secret issue, we cannot tell. And then they, knowing very well that we are giving them money, they have all records in the government files, they gave a clear lie in the official in the Rajya Sabha that we don't pay them. 2007 there was a case put in Calcutta High Court.
एक क्वेश्चन पूछा गया that are you paying, and
So
they say that we are not.
They say we cannot tell them because it is top secret. So they gave a false reply that we are not giving.
And is that available?
Everything is government records are available. मैंने रिकॉर्ड, अरे मैं पागल, आप मैं फंस जाऊंगा भैया। आपके सामने बैठ करके मैं पूरे भारत सरकार को बातें कर रहा हूँ, मजाक नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं मरूंगा, मैं मर चुका होता से 4 साल पहले अगर मैंने झूठ बोल रहा होता। ये जितनी बड़ी बड़ी बातें मैं कर रहा हूँ आगे खुल्लम खुल्ला, अगर एक बात भी गलत होती तो आपको लगता है कि मुझे गवर्नमेंट छोड़ती आज तक आ जाए? ये झूठ बोला इन्होंने पार्लियामेंट में जाकर के, रिकॉर्ड पर है, मैं तो रिकॉर्ड कोट कर रहा हूँ, मैं तो खुद बोल नहीं रहा। पढ़िए, उसमें बहुत धमाल है उसके अंदर। उसके बाद में 2007 में देयर वाज अ कोर्ट केस इन कैलकाटा, सेम क्वेश्चन कि आर यू पेइंग द मनी और नॉट। डू यू नो हाउ द केस वाज सेटल्ड? द कोर्ट ऑर्डर सेज कि द केस इज क्लोज्ड बिकॉज द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया हैज फाइल्ड एन एफिडेविट इन व्हिच दे हैव सेड कि दे आर नॉट पेइंग द मनी। सो दे आर पेइंग द मनी बट दे विल नॉट एडमिट बिकॉज इट इज टॉप सीक्रेट। So इसमें बड़ा क्लियर कहानी है कि ऑन इश्यूज टॉप सीक्रेट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया विल टेल अ लाई टू पार्लियामेंट, दे विल टेल अ लाई टू कोर्ट। इनकी कोई क्रेडिबिलिटी नहीं है।
एंड व्हाट इज द रफली अमाउंट दैट वी आर लुकिंग एट?
आई डोंट केयर अबाउट अमाउंट वो छोड़िए आप, कुछ अब कितना मुझे पता नहीं, उसका भी है हिसाब किताब लिखा हुआ है। अच्छा, बट मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि द बेसिक पॉइंट प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड द सम एंड सब्सटेंस ऑफ दिस, द मोरल ऑफ द स्टोरी इज वेरी क्लियर कि ऑन इश्यूज कंसर्निंग नेताजी the government of India would lie to court, would lie to Parliament House if it came to that, which they have done in this case. Open and shut case. Because it's top secret, they cannot tell.
So what happened after 2007?
I don't know. मुझे हमारी केस के पता। 2007 के बाद में क्या हुआ, हम लोग एक्टिव हो गए सूचना के अधिकार में। मैं चंद्रचूड़ घोष वगैरह, हम लोगों ने वो सूचना का अधिकार यूज किया, डॉक्यूमेंट 2 फाइल,
which is right to information, right?
Then because of our efforts they were Manmohan Singh government released about 1000 files, ठीक है, plus. So when these files were released, I went to the National Archive. Now what happens when you undertake a large scale declassification? So sometimes by mistake you release something which you shouldn't have. This kind of mistake have happened in earlier place. In America, I think CIA by mistake once released some document, then they realized that this probably should not have gone public. They again reclassified it. So in our country, you can't do that. So once it is gone, the cat is out of the bag, the cat is out of the bag. So I go to National Archive and I came across photocopies, not the original, of certain files which were depicting or showing that at the behest of the Intelligence Bureau, the local intelligence in Bengal was chasing Subhash Bose's family from roughly about till about 70s. Okay. So I called Chandrachud Ghosh and I told him, Chandrachud, this is the Watergate scandal part 2.
The biggest
so the Watergate scandal, most people don't know. I'm the younger people, they should go and search on YouTube. It's the single most notorious scandal in the history of political science.
Yes.
It happened in America, and this was an attempt to spy on people, on a political party, and it was botched up, and then the President Nixon had to resign because of that. So no other American president had to face such humiliation as he did, and he had to resign. I think no American president has resigned till date. Only Nixon was the only one. So this is so the Watergate scandal was nothing but an attempt to spy on people, on opposition political parties. But in this case, in Nehru's time, we were able to do everything, and we never got caught until 2000. 12, 14 when I went to National Archive. So we were so smart compared to the Americans. Americans were not able to spy on people and they were caught in no time. In our case, in Panditji's time, we were able to spy on people for decades to come, but we were never caught. It's only when files were released and by mistake some papers have come out, and now that we know. So this caused a great sensation because Watergate scandal is very well known to top level journalists. Before 2015, when we brought out this story out, senior journalists didn't care much about this case. They thought it too big. Even today, there are many very important, podcasters who are very famous senior journalists. They think they are so big, and they talk to Modi ji, they talk to top level people in the world. So Subhash Chandra Bose को गए 40 साल हो गए. They don't give a damn about even hits. कि आपको hit भी नहीं मिलते अब. I'm getting so many hits, so there must be some substance. So forget about your own personal. But they think they are so big. The ego comes in the picture. Journalists have ego problem. They journalists have very very infected egos. They think they are so big. They talk to Modi. They talk to this. Why should they care about Subhash Chandra Bose? वो समझ में नहीं आता. एक बड़ी पुरानी कहावत है कि मरा हुआ हाथी 50 लाख का बिकता है. So even his death, Subhash Bose is very popular compared to many other leaders today. So they forget
We're
that.
not talking about any Tom, Dick and Harry.
He's not. No. He's very famous. I mean, there are other also who are famous. Some have been made famous, but he's very well known.
Right,
So don't say this, just because I'm a very big shot journalist and I was, I talk to Prime Minister every day. Well, go and talk. Go and talk to Prime Minister about Netaji, then you'll understand. अगर इतनी तुम्हारे में जिगरा है, तुम्हारे में मैंने एग्जांपल दूंगा. मैंने तो बहुत ही है ना. आई met Indra Malhotra ji.
अच्छा.
Indra Malhotra ji was Indira Gandhi's biographer. Very well known. He was Times of India editor. Very well-known journalist. Kuldeep Nayyar or Indra Malhotra was a senior-most journalist. So I met Indra sir through some sources. And he was Jagmohan ji's cousin. Jagmohan जो हमारे गवर्नर कश्मीर. जगमोहन साहब से मिला हूँ एक बार. अलग मेरे एक किताब के बारे में फंक्शन में आए थे वो. He backed me on this issue. But Indra Malhotra ji, I met him and I told him कि sir, this is the case I've come across and this is what not. Then Indra साहब मुझे फ़ोन करके बाद में मुझे उन्होंने बोला कि son, I have known many former IB directors retired and raw chiefs and all that. Indra Malhotra was very good friends with Tree and Cow and all that, these people. R and Cow and others. So he was of that level. Indra Malhotra was not a small person. Anybody who's been journalism will understand who's Malhotra sahab was. So उन्होंने बोला कि I have known these people. He didn't give me a name. He said I have spoken to some people in the foreign secretary and intelligence and all that. These people have never withheld anything from me. But in this case, they are all clammed up. There's something very serious in this case. That's what he told me. तो जो फन्ने खां जर्नलिस्ट अपने आप को बड़ा जर्नलिस्ट समझते हैं मैं ये नहीं कह रहा नहीं है, मैं भी पसंद करता हूँ उनको, लेकिन वो मेरे इशू से कन्नी काट रहे हैं बिकॉज दे थिंक दे आर वेरी बिग. इफ यू आर सो बिग, गो एंड टॉक टू मोदी अबाउट नेताजी केस. गो एंड टॉक टू अमित शाह जी. यू टेक हिज अपॉइंटमेंट. सर, आई वांट टू इंटरव्यू ऑन द नेताजी डेथ केस. तुम्हारी हेकड़ी 2 दिन में निकाल देगी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. जाके बात करके दिखाओ उनसे, आपको मालूम चलेगा कि कितना बड़ा केस है ये. They will refuse to come on camera and talk about this case because it's a very serious issue. अमेरिका में कंट्रोवर्सी चलती है ना कैनेडी असोसिएशन के ऊपर. वी हैव कवर्ड दैट हियर बिकॉज उसका लिंक है हमारे से इनडायरेक्टली एक. एंड देयर आर इश्यूज अबाउट कि यूएफओस हैं कि नहीं है. यू सी देयर रूटीनली अमेरिकन मीडिया विल आस्क क्वेश्चन टू द अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट्स अबाउट, इवन इफ जोकिंग. हाउ मेनी टाइम्स आवर जर्नलिस्ट हैव पुट क्वेश्चन टू मोदी जी वो नेताजी रथ केस पे क्या आपका स्टैंड है? व्हाई कांट यू डू इट? Why can't our top level journalists who have everything, they have the confidence, they have the connections, they come and interview the Home Minister for 2 to 3 hours. They ask all kind of questions. They ask about what's happening in Afghanistan. To hell with them. I'm concerned my own country first. Okay. Why don't you ask them about Subhash Bose? Modi ji, is it true that there are certain top secret files which are only in your custody? There are different levels of, classification everywhere. So there are files, confidential, secret, top secret, but there's a class of information which is accessible only to the Prime Minister. Ask him. Ask the Home Minister whether there's a thing called T branch. Sir, कोई T branch नाम की चीज़ होती है क्या? T branch के अलग अलग लेवल होते हैं. There are different levels of T branch. Have you inquired whether T branch has filed on Subhash Bose or not? Can we question the director IB on the Subhash Bose issue? Okay,
so we've covered the Renkoji temple. We've covered the Russian angle. What is this new theory of Gumnami Baba? I know it's not new, but
it's not new.
But lot of times I think this is the most credible.
No, this is the.
So now I'd like to know more about it.
The other thing is that this Gumnami Baba story started in 1985 September, when this person who was Sadhu Mahatma, who was living in Ayodhya Faizabad, and he died, and then there was a controversy, and then because people who were linked to him, they said he was Netaji. We could not be very open about it, but now we can tell you that he was Subhash Bose. So this started there, but story was somehow, you can say that despite public attention and localized, it was curtailed, and the story got killed. It was I who, when I was part of the Hindustan Times investigation, which I told you about, we did investigation. So this is where I picked up the threads. How I picked up the threads is a very interesting story as far as I am concerned. If somebody were to make a movie on my life, there's already a movie called Gumnami, which is partially based on my life. But if somebody were to make a movie on my life, probably this would be a very good scene for it. Now, I was we did an inquiry on Netaji's death in part of Hindustan Times investigation. So me and other people, they were seniors. I worked probably the hardest and I brought more information. So they took a decision, collective decision, and decision taken by seniors. that the on available evidence, Subhash Bose does not appear to have died in any plane crash. So this decision was taken on behalf of Hindustan Times and published in 2001 in a mini website of HT, which has now since then vanished. It's no longer there.
That story does not exist on Hindustan.
No, the proper mini website of that. It was there and it is now gone.
Under Hindustan Times domain.
Yeah, Hindustan Times domain. The story, that puri website is gone now. It's not there. It must have been removed by somebody. So I have a backup, of course. So story, this happened, and then we were summoned by Mukherjee Commission, to give evidence and all that. So I am a normal, as I said, the normal middle class person. So we, when we are growing up, so we used to read about, there was a Gandhiji died and there was an, trial. There was a Kapoor Commission on Gandhiji's,
on Gandhi's commission.
Conspiracy theory and whatever. And there was Netaji, there was a commission of inquiry. So I used to hear, like everybody else, there was so now suddenly there's a commission of inquiry, Netaji's death, and I'm supposed to be witness before it. So I felt like it was like an ego trip for me that I am also part of history in a sense, indirectly. In future, people would write about it, so they would probably mention that I also appeared before a commission. So it was in a way nice feeling. Now it became even more nicer when I reached this Vigyan Bhavan where this is Mukherjee was, this court was there.
Which year would that be?
This is 2003.
Okay.
Three होगा.
So Vajpayee ji is still the prime minister.
हाँ, it was Vajpayee this thing. Three होगा ये. तो उसमें there was a commission of inquiry, Mukherjee Commission, विज्ञान भवन में वहाँ पे commission of inquiry की setting वही होती है. So I reached there, lo and behold, I see Pranab Mukherjee. So Pranab Babu was witness number 48. I was witness number 50 and 51 is Kumar Natwar Singh. Okay. So it's been very gratifying for us, again, a person coming from middle class background, that you are in the same room, you are the same line. And I saw Pranab Babu being examined. He was nervous. There was no media. Nobody was interested in the story in those days. But Pranab Babu was very nervous before Mukherjee Commission. I saw with my own eyes. Okay. And he was trying to dodge the issue also. Anyhow, so after I had given my whatever I could say, there's not much of consequence. Whatever I said and I was through with it. Then this thing began to sink in me. In the sense that you do a story, you file a story and you reach a conclusion that Netaji did not die in plane crash, as said by the government and others. Once it started to sink in, it began to hit me that if he did not die, what really happened to him? And the only theory and only story we used to hear about openly everywhere, that Netaji was in Russia and he was killed, and people used to drag Panditji's name to it. Stalin killed him and Panditji...
Because Stalin was not having good relations?
No, that was the view then. I did not know then what I know now. Now I know different thing altogether. But in those days, the impression was, and still impression is, even if you went today and talked to somebody like Subramaniam Swamy, he would tell you that Stalin killed Netaji and it was done at the behest of Pandit Nehru. So that is the openly, make this allegation. And stories have appeared about on these lines everywhere. And this is a view which is held by a lot of people. In fact, I was doing inquiry from Netaji's, the Hindustan Times. People try to discourage me that what is the new thing you're trying to do? Everybody knows that he was in Russia and was killed there. So what is new ground you're trying to break? So this was there and I became desperate. Like I felt very bad. Man, Subhash Chandra Bose, who had done so much for this country, and anybody for that should die, end up in a Siberian dungeon. This is not done. He should die in a very terrible way in a prisoner in a foreign country. And this is very sad. And this story should be told. So I thought, let me find out more. Let me try and go beyond, if he did not die in the plane crash, what happened to him. So I did not know what to do, and most people that I was not a journalist having a beat. So in a sense, I could not go and talk to people directly. What I did was I started to talk to people. Suppose I met you and you were somebody who know things. You were senior journalist. You used to go to home ministry every now and then. So I would talk to you कि boss जरा बताओ, जरा ये सवाल पूछ के देखना उनसे, कोई बताएगा. Then I would approach, suppose I got in touch with somebody else and I asked whether you have any relative of uncle, auntie, कोई है जो PMO में है, IB में है, RAW में है. Because this much I knew that you were looking for very information which is of this level. It must be with the government level. And the government के अंदर आपका PMO में IB, RAW वगैरह में information की होनी चाहिए. तो वो तो धीरे धीरे, I mean, it was like I can even today, in this age, by this now today, I can brag about it. I'm a very great journalist, but I don't want to do anything. I was a nobody, and it was just a tukka that I just shot in the dark. I was just tried, and I began shooting in the dark.
Okay.
And one of my shots hit bullseye. So it is not because of I was very smart or something. It was just a tukka. I took a chance, and it happened like this. And this tukka happened that I began talking to people, and by over a period of time, people began to give me some tidbits.
Inputs.
There's something big here.
So what happened in that meeting with when Pranab Mukherjee was there?
He was asked question. He was in a sense that he was there in the there's a almost like a courtroom setting. So Mukherjee is sitting like a judge, and there's a enclosure in which the witness is standing. So the distance between him and me would be same as you and me. So I was sitting and watching Pranab Babu. So Pranab Babu's probably the upper part of the body was visible. This is Mukherjee, but his lower part was not because it was concealed because Mukherjee was sitting on a higher level. But I could see Pranab Babu standing full. And Pranab Babu was not very, like me, he's not a very tall man. He was not a very tall man there. So Pranab Babu was standing, but I could see Pranab Babu's fingers were twitching like this. And his face was flush red. He was reddish also, but he was looking nervous. So not only his nervous, his fingers were twitching. I still remember that. And then he was not. He was. It just reminds me of yesterday. I was watching, the cabinet, the American Senate confirmation of Kash Patel. So he's being asked questions. So they're trying to put words that you took this tape and you are telling some podcaster that we did this thing. So does we mean you also? He said no. We does not mean me also all the time. So it's a similar thing, though Mukherjee asked him, this is Mukherjee, that when you went to meet Netaji's wife, you were trying to persuade her that, she should accept the plane crash theory.
We were talking about Pranab Mukherjee and Subhash Chandra Bose's ex-wife.
Was widow. The one of the problems, or maybe the good point, I don't know how to put it, of this case is like it goes, in a different direction. So I don't know which. So we were talking about something, but we go to some other direction.
Yes.
So I was talking about my presence before the Mukherjee Commission, and Pranab Babu was also examined, and I found him to be floundering on certain issues. Now in this, the reason why he was called and the issue that you asking about relates to a visit that under Pranab Mukherjee took in 1905, September. He went to Germany and he met Netaji's wife Emilie Schenkl, Netaji's widow. So Emilie Schenkl, the idea was to convince her that Netaji died in a plane crash, which she was not convinced, and the ashes should be brought to India. That's what
he asked her.
So he had gone there to try and convince her to come on to government part of view. She was never convinced. She always felt Netaji was in Russia after his death. So they were trying to convince. So Pranab Babu goes there, and this is one good example. People keep talking about that their Netaji's family saying this, and so I'm telling you the version of the wife. No, forget the other grandnephew and nieces. This is what wife felt, and she's more important than anybody, including his own daughter. She knows best. She knew the best, and so did the Netaji's brothers and sisters. None of them believed the plane crash theory. So Pranab Babu was there, and when Emilie Schenkl came to know that he was coming, she became very, very angry, very annoyed. And she didn't want him there. And she said, just get lost. Don't come and talk about this. Because she had very clear view that Subhash was in Russia after his death. So obviously she didn't believe in these ashes as Netaji's ashes. And then she, unfortunately, she was not there when Mukherjee Commission functioned. Otherwise, she would have given evidence before Commission also. So then...
Did she die naturally?
She died naturally. She died in 1996. So 95 September, Pranab Babu goes to her residence and in Germany, Augsburg, if I'm not wrong. And then, she was not willing to have any discussion with him. And she basically asked him to get lost. That's, if you put in a... So he went out and he took Netaji's daughter, Dr. Anita Faf, and husband. They went out for dinner, whatever. So, but Pranab Babu, at behalf of government, so Mukherjee, Justice Mukherjee asked him this question, is it your view then that Netaji died in a plane crash and the ashes was his? He said, this is government's view. Okay. So Pranab Babu made it very clear, this is not my view, this is government's view. Just as, day before yesterday, I was watching, this Kash Patel's, Senate hearing. So they asked him, we did this, we did that. He said, we, you means you also. He said, no, we does not mean me. Depends upon circumstances. We does not mean me only, because suppose you say India won the cricket match today. So we said we won. So I am not there physically, but I think it's part of. So this is how Kash Patel tried to give a very smart answer. I think everybody liked his Senate hearing actually the other way happened. So now the world has become so one thanks to internet, things we used to hear, now we can live stream, we can watch everything happening on it, because now the world is so connected. We are very interested in seeing what's happening in other parts of the world. So I personally take interest in American affairs because I have been to that country. After my own country, I've seen that country the most. So I enjoy, watching, follow the current events sometimes. So this is what happened. Now, when this is after I deposed before Mukherjee Commission in 2003, I became very, in a sense, desperate, and I was shooting in the dark and trying to elicit information from fishing here and there, and tidbits started to come to me. There's something serious about this case, of that sort, nothing special. But there's something special. There's something very serious. There are files which nobody knows, and there's some bigger controversy. So that sort of a thing. Then one day I got lucky, and it was through, again, potluck, Ismat, fate. I got into touch with somebody who was in turn in touch with sitting in the highest level in the government of India.
Okay.
Somebody who had seen the files. So this communication happened, and it was relayed to me. The question was put to that person that कि अंकल आपने देखा आजकल हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स में तो बहुत खबरें आ रही हैं नेताजी की डेथ को लेकर के, हाँ देख लिया, उसमें कुछ भी नहीं है, बेकार है, हमारे पास तो बहुत मटेरियल पड़ा हुआ है. We rubbished everything because we said we have seen everything, there's nothing in it, we have got much more. But then this question was put to him again कि अंकल आपने, and this is a person who was in the know of things at the highest level. कि नेताजी मर गए थे क्या प्लेन क्रैश में? इतना बड़ा फ्रीडम फाइटर तुम क्यों मारते हो उसको? उल्टा उसको, such a big freedom fighter, why do you have to kill him? He said he went to Russia. We have all the records. So till that time it was falling into a pattern, because I also knew, I also had a hunch that Russia was the only theory on the table. And I never gave any attention to the Gumnami Baba theory, which is unfortunately today has become worldwide known because of me. But at that time I was totally opposed to it. So much so that I remember I was in Hindustan Time office, and some people had come there from UP. And I asked my colleague, who are these people? Because we had made an announcement in case anybody wants to share information, they are welcome to come and meet us in office. So many people showed up in our office in the Sun Times in North Place area. So then I remember, so there were some people, and they were from, we can make out from appearances, they were from the UP and not from Delhi. You can nowadays everybody wears the same clothes, so you can't make out. But in the older days, people used to wear different clothes differently. Now thanks to internet, everybody is on the same level, so which is fine, which is good. And then so my colleague said, I asked him, what is this? He said, these people have come from UP and they say that there is some Gumnami Baba, Bose Deception. So I abused in Hindi, which हम दिल्ली वाले आपको पता ही है कि आप गालियाँ माँ बहन की देते हैं. मैंने गाली दे के भगाया. क्या पागलपंती की सुभाष बोस कहाँ से आ जाएगा, वो भी यूपी के अंदर, वो भी फैजाबाद में. It is such a mockery of the whole thing. So I abused, and so this is, I mean, at least अभी आज को लोग मुझे बैठा के तमीज़ से पूछते हैं. अब तो मैं तो सुनने को राजी नहीं था. गाली निकल गई थी.
Because Russia story पे you were completely sold.
Because anybody who, if you put yourself in that condition, this was the only story which made sense. And Gumnami Baba theory on the face of it never made sense to anybody. To me also it made no sense. I abused. That's what I could do. So I refused to meet those guys. So this person, then I come back to, as we go back and forth, I come back to the conversation between the man on the top and the relative who conveyed it to us. Where we have all the records, and this is up to government to decide what to do when political decisions will be taken. एक चीज बोला, this issue will not be understood by people, it's too complicated. So then he changed gear. He said we were in touch with him until 1985. We have all records.
The government of India was in touch with Gumnami Baba.
No, they didn't mention Gumnami Baba. They were talking about Subhash Bose. He said we were in touch with him until 1985. We have all records. We even have minutes of
meeting
Indira Gandhi's with him.
Okay.
The Prime Minister Gandhi meets him, and they have minutes. We have records. Issues very complicated. There are issues involved, and it won't be, and people won't be able to understand it. But at the end of the day, politicians have to decide. ऐसा कुछ मुझे 4-5 बातें बोली, कुछ में से कुछ बातें जो मैं नहीं बोल सकता. I can't say because I'll be. These are not things should be spoken publicly. So they said something. So from that day till today, I've been inquiring, and I get inputs almost every month, some new input from here and there. Sometimes some very unusual sources. I go to foreign country, somebody tells me something there. Indian guy. So he or she has no reason to tell lies. So I have me, and then of course when I say we, because then after we became a group, and Chandrachud became part of it. So all of us have inquired in our own way independently. All of us have received no input other than this, that this story is correct, that he was alive till 85. So there was no mention of Gumnami Baba. So I was stuck. I lost sleep. I couldn't sleep for 3 days properly. I was disturbed, of course, and anybody would be, because I was sure that if information given to me is genuine. So I was sure of that thing. I don't know what to do, but then somehow it struck my mind that we had put a question, when we were doing the Hindustan Times investigations, we had put out a question, do you really think that Netaji died in 1945? Something of that sort. So I recall somebody had sent a reply, and that reply contained 1985. So I went back to the email, and I tracked, and there was a person called Banerji from Faizabad, and he had written that I know that Netaji did not die in 1945 because he was with us till 85. So I called that guy because uska baat kiya. He said, this is not me, this is my father's words I'm conveying to you. So this is Dr. Indonil Banerji. He's a doctor there. His father was Dr. Prebat Banerji. Dr. Saab is no more. His father, the son is there. He's Dr. Saab. So his grandfather was also doctor. So he said, this is me. My parents, we are here in Lucknow for past 4 or 5 generations. My parents were here, and Netaji had come to Lucknow. They had seen him.
So the most wanted
and
man is in Faizabad.
And these people, they said that my father and mother, they came in touch with him. They identified him. They saw his face. Our family had access, very rare access, because and we were all seeing him face to face. I found Dr. Paytm Banerjee to be he was very sophisticated and polished man, as you expect any doctors to be. Spoke in English. So you should appreciate him. There's a way of judging people. People in that part of country are usually not polished in sense of Western sense of the term. So he was not like a Tom, Dick and Harry. And we also have a biases now, because at least I had then. Today I don't have those biases. I don't judge a person just because he's able to speak English better than others. But sometimes it's a thing with our people in our country that they tend to judge a person by his appearance and by not by content, but by how she or they speak. For me, there's been a problem that I'm a Delhi wala. Went to government school, so I cannot speak English like an American. I've never been to an American university. I have now given talks to Indians there, but I don't speak English in American accent or British accent.
What was he doing in Faizabad?
Well, I'll come to that thing. So this Dr. Banerjee was very sounded to be very So this is how I discovered the Gumnami Baba issue, and of course that I went there. I met people. There were a lot of people there. I inquired, and then I met the local journalist who had did the inquiry, Ashok Tandon ji in particular. And I found them to be, they were genuine people, and they were records. And thereafter, we have a long story to what happened, and then this is how it is. So this is how I reached the Gumnami Baba story. So for me, it's not that I, one fine morning, I felt Netaji must be a Baba. I was damn against it. I abused that person who for the first time told me about this story. But eventually, after I got an input, which came from a government source at the highest level, that I actually began inquiring, and from that today till today, whatever me and Chandrachud and others have done in our group, we have verified and re-verified and verified and re-verified. In last 20 years, we have all the evidence that we have come across. See, understand, not everything you can write down in a book, not everything you can say publicly. For example, for instance, I'm just thinking aloud, giving example. For example, if I met a former intelligence chief, and he were to tell me something, obviously I can't write that in a book. That will be for my guidance. So I'm including all that also. So including everything that I've heard, which I can say publicly and I cannot say publicly, I have no manner of doubt that the so-called Gumnami Baba was Netaji. And the government of India is aware at the highest level, because not everybody knows everything in government. So the government is aware. And the reason why we are so convinced that we have put our neck on the chopping block. I've been going out everywhere saying publicly that, because I'm sure I have nothing but the power of truth. Prove me wrong, but these are the evidence. You can say, because people brush it off saying, I don't believe it. I can't help
How
it.
did he reach Faizabad?
So story is very complicated. So you want to start from his entry to India, or from the plain custody?
1945. So August.
So obviously the man is Subhash Chandra Bose. Obviously he would know everything, isn't it? So the one problem with the Gumnami Baba story, that he left a lot of literature, and he spoke a lot with people close to him. Now a lot of people have died. Okay.
Of course.
So, and many who were alive, and they were very cagey about sharing information about him. So we had great difficulty, in getting information out. So we have been able to, access very small fraction of the information. So the many gaps are there, because we don't know everything. We know a little, but whatever little I know, from there I can tell you. So he said very clearly that he knew, and this is also proven by the Declassified, that he knew that the Axis forces were losing the war. And he had to find refuge to continue fighting for the country, and that country was Russia. And he says that Gumnami Baba said that in December 44, he made a secret trip to Russia from Tokyo, from Japan. And he met the leaders of that country, and the plan was more or less ready, that he would come to them. Now in the declassified files, which were released in India much later, we have come across reports of the intelligence suggesting that Netaji had gone to Russia in December 44. Okay. And then we also have come to know that Netaji had written letters or made an approach to the Russian ambassador in Tokyo for support and for virtually seeking asylum. And this was like the Russian ambassador was sitting in Tokyo until I think the beginning of 1945. He was there, or even beyond. Now then, this Gumnami Baba, again, I do not know exactly, he has given a story about how he escaped, but probably that may not be understood by people, so I will not get into it. But he has given a reason how he escaped. He's talked about that Saigon he did not leave. He was in Saigon. Habib went alone. This man from there, he went to some other place, and probably the last nitty-gritty of the who will do what story we're planting, that was a decision taken by Japanese. He himself escaped, and he was there for some time, and around 23rd of August something, he escaped into Russian territory. That's what the impression I got from the initial. In Russia, he was, again, there's some confusion whether he was treated shabbily or not. One person asked him question, how did they treat you? He said, I was not their Jamai Raja. That's one way he said. The other way, they may have been some misunderstanding at some initial stage. But one thing is clear that after some time when he reached there, he got on very good terms with Russians, according to Gumnami. He used to talk a lot about Russia and Stalin and gulags, Siberia. I give you an example. It gets very cold in North India. And Bengali people generally feel very cold. They are not accustomed to the bitter cold of North India. So this was in Ayodhya, and bitter cold night. And people, and the house owner was, he was using a hearth, angiti. So he stuck him that, I'm feeling cold, and there's an old sannyasi, sadhu mahatma sitting inside. He's my parent, but he doesn't show his face to anybody. He's inside the room. So he must be also feeling cold. So why don't offer him angiti, unko ja karke, Swami ji ko bhi. So he went and spoke to him कि स्वामी जी आपको अंगीठी दें, आपको ठंड ये लगता गर्मी में. So he used to speak Hindi as Bengali speak, this man, so from the curtain. So he said कि ये शरीर साइबेरिया में रहा है, इसको ठंड नहीं लगता है, ये शरीर साइबेरिया में रहा है. This body has been through the Siberian cold, it doesn't feel cold. तो इस तरह के उनके मुंह से डैंग निकलते थे भाषण बाजियां, बात करते करते करते. Stalin did not treat me like an enemy, my own people did. And he would make statement about other Russian leaders like Khrushchev, Brezhnev and others. And he used to describe in detail about the functioning of the gulags, how gulags function. This was not a known thing, by the way, in those days. It became known only after Solzhenitsyn book came out, Gulag Archipelago, in 1973, God's not even maybe 70s. This guy was talking earlier. So he said he was in gulags, but not as a prisoner, beyond one point. And he held Americans responsible for the defeat of the INA. Because the Americans attacked Air Force and then they dropped the bomb and all that.
Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
A lot of people, especially in India, they have this thing about them that they were defeated the Japanese in Second World War and all that thing. Especially the Indians, those who were serving the British. So they make these tall claims, कि हमने जाके मार दिया, वो कर दिया, वो आपने क्या मारना था आप तो. See, they had gone to Southeast Asia in 1942. You know what happened in Japan in 42, because that was not Jallianwala Bagh that your Malik will order you and you will kill people. So they were beaten black and blue like anything. And I can assure you one thing: if had the Russians and Americans not come to Second World War, the Japanese would have made a mincemeat of these people, especially the British Indian Army. They were no match for the Japanese. वो तो अब चौड़े पे डींगे मार रहे क्योंकि अमेरिकन ने बम डाल दिया. तुम्हारी तो औकात लड़ने की, तुम्हारी औकात तो जापानी ने दिखाती थी. 42 में तो मार मार के तुम्हारे को भेजा वहाँ पे. 90,000 POWs और that's why the INA was formed. So they were no match for the Japanese. वो तो बाद में अब लड़ाई जीत गए, अमेरिकन का भला हो तो आप डींगे हाँकने कि आपने मार दिया.
एटम बम का भला हो.
हाँ, अमेरिकन ने किया, आपने क्या किया? आप तो जलियांवाला बाग की तरह गोली मार के आप तो जाकर नेतों पे गोलियां मारते जाकर के आपकी ये औकात है वहाँ पे. मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछता हूँ. Suppose there's a hypothetical situation that it comes out tomorrow that there was a peaceful demonstration by the Jewish people in some occupied area, and the Nazi Air Force attacked them from above using machine gun from the plane. Would it be classified as a war crime or not? Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. हाँ, तो in the Quit India movement, भारत छोड़ो आंदोलन में भारत में एयरफोर्स ने ऊपर से मशीन गन से गोलियां चलाई हैं लोगों पे. वॉर क्राइम है कि नहीं है?
बिल्कुल है.
बिल्कुल वॉर क्राइम है ना. तो आपने तो अपने कोई इंक्वायरी नहीं करवाई ना यहाँ पे कि कौन जहाज उड़ा रहा था यहाँ पे, कौन सी एयरफोर्स थी यहाँ पे इंडिया में.
अपने लोग थे. तो
आपने वॉर क्राइम्स नहीं किया. आप लोगों ने गोलियां मारी ना. आप बैठ के सारा का सारा ब्लेम डायर पे ठोक के बैठ गए. अपने गिरफ्त आप लोगों ने किया, हमारे लोगों ने वॉर क्राइम्स किए. तो एनी हाउ, तो ये सो दिस मैन सिटिंग इन, आई एम गिविंग यू द वर्जन व्हिच आई एम एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम दैट साइड. So he was of the he said that then he was very angry with the people in India. So on one side he was very annoyed with the Americans, they came in the way. On the other hand he was very unhappy with the leadership here in India led by Panditji. He said the way they have accepted the transfer of power, which is the 15th of August was a transfer of power. He said if I don't do anything, the Cold War between Americans and Russians will become it will come to Indian soil. I say India should be kept away from all this. India should not become battleground for these powers. We will be ruined. We are a very poor country, and whatever action steps is being taken by the system, the people in authority in India are wrong. Because he used to talk in terms of 20, 30, 40 years ahead, what is going to happen to India, to the country. So he was calculating many years ahead, and this is going to happen today. So it's not about today we think in terms of 5 years, because elections are happening. BJP will do something 5 years with Congress, but I'm sure in the defense community they don't think like that. They have all 20 30 years plan. Right. So likewise, Gumnami Baba was thinking in terms of 20, 30, 40 years of plan. What is going to happen? So he was like, he's keeping that in mind. And even Russian wanted to make use of him, and they gave him a task. He never defined what that task was, but he was able to do it. And he got on a very good books of Stalin. He described being in a top secret Russian facility where they used to do all kind of testings of different kind of things like radar and all whatnot, whatever technology was there in those days, because there was. So he was in that top secret facility, and then he became part of Russian covert operations. And as part of those operations, the first they sent him to Korea. So he claimed that he advised North Korea. And because South, the other Americans. So he, according to him, that he was able to pay back a little bit to the Americans then. Because the same general was there in the First World War, in the Second World War, in the MacArthur, and MacArthur was also in charge. And then he went on to talk about other theaters like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. And
Vietnam, the Americans left.
So
they lost.
So he kept on. He claimed that this man that I did something. For example, he told people that I have a small role to play in what was happening in Vietnam. He said at my behest, Ho Chi Minh distributed finest form of cocaine and heroin. It's been dumped. 1,000 tons have been dumped on the South Vietnamese side, and Americans can fight this war for another 100 years, whatever. They will never be able to win. So he said this thing, I think in 66 or something of that. So by this time, as far as my little understanding goes, I think people are not aware that how bad is the drug situation in Vietnam. It was only toward the end of 60s that Pentagon began receiving news that the American soldiers was taking a lot of drugs there. And by, I think, Nixon's era, early 70s, they knew that 15% of American soldiers were on drugs.
15%?
Yeah, were on drugs. So what astonishing thing to me in this case, in other cases also, I don't expect a Baba sitting in UP to know about all these things,
Not
Baba,
even in 2025.
A Baba sitting in UP cannot tell you that there's an underground secret bunker in a country whose existence nobody knows until 2000. And a Baba sitting in UP cannot tell you that when I left Saigon, there's a lot of INA treasure with me, which I wanted this man to carry with him and follow me to Russia. He never did that, and he went to some other place. And this man was involved in the loot of the treasure. And same information more or less is coming in the declassified files. How did he know that this thing happened? So he was able to make many statements and claims pertaining to his own life, something happening in India, and also something which happened abroad.
So
I don't understand why. How can a Baba, talk about it? A Baba would not know. Baba comes to our head as mostly buffoons, actually, if you ask me. So how would they know all these things? This is a remarkable person. So then he, at a certain point of time, probably in 49ish, he was in China. And this is, then the Chinese also came to know of his existence, though at that level. According to the version given by him, Mao was on good terms with him. And he described Chinese as not as a monolith. They were also having different factions. So he has talked about the Chinese war, 62 and 65 war. He claimed to have played a part in these wars. So his statement is different about, for example, Mao was on a different level and the other guys were different level. He was not that hot-headed as other were. Anyhow, it was different. So he was talking and he came back around 51, 52. He returned to India. He came from Mansarovar region and Nepalganj, and he entered UP. Okay. He was first, I think, in Manpuri region.
Okay.
And he's brought in the picture with the help, and he took help of the Royal Nepalese family. The Royal Nepalese family helped him, and then when he arrived here, again he was helped by aristocrats in India. And
why would they help?
God, no, I mean, they probably knew who he was, and he had some ways to, I don't know. We do not know, but I know that he got some help. That's what I know. So my information also very limited. And then he was in Manpuri first, we know. Atta, Manpuri. He reached Lucknow. So in 55, 56, he was in Lucknow. And in Lucknow, we know very clearly that the then Chief Minister Sampurnanji was in touch with him. Sampurnand was in touch with him. And in fact, there's an indirect clue also that Sampurnand himself has left. He wrote his maybe biography in 1960, Sampurnanji. So if you go put yourself in his shoes and go back to 1960, he was then, I think, governor of Rajasthan. It's very, remarkable that somebody who was a senior Congress leader, he should write in his book that when there was a contest between Gandhiji's nominee, Patabi Sitaramaiah, and Subhash Chandra Bose, I voted for Subhash Bose. He gave that kind of indication. Then he also wrote in his book, Sampurnanji, that India's becoming free has to do with Subhash Bose, which was something which nobody used to talk about in those days. And third thing that he mentioned, that people say that he has died in a plane crash, but some people say that he's alive. Please understand, these people at that level are very mindful of every word that they write.
Absolutely.
So why are you in writing this thing that, that some people say that he's still alive? So if you ask me, that he has left some clues very clearly. More than that, his family might know, but he has left clues.
So how was he surviving financially?
Then financially, it seems that initially these people were supporting him, and he used to, do some, God knows, preach them religious, and they get some dakshina. Then Sampurnanji was in touch with him. So, but there were times from maybe late 50s to, early 60s, he was in very bad shape financially. So he had a very... I think
last 10 years.
Last few years, maybe early 60s, he was in a very bad condition in between. So he had nothing to eat and all that. So he barely survived. So there were times he was helpless. I think it happened after Sampurnanji left UP. He was in big trouble. And then after 63, we have full account, because then There were people from Calcutta, old revolutionary, got in touch with him. Then they were looking after him. Otherwise, local people were supporting him, those who were in touch with him. And so this man, who is now known as Gumnami Baba, his name was not Gumnami Baba. Okay. He was called a sannyasi, sadhu, mahatma, whatever. Sri Swami, Vijayanandji, Dashnami sannyasi, your dead man, Mrut dead ghost, Mandicus, General Death, General Shiva. These are names by which he used to call himself. He had given himself many these kind of assumed names. But usually he said, your dead man. Your dead man. That is what he used to talk about. And son of Mother India, so on and so forth.
So
yeah, he was there, and then he was not in Faizabad all the time. As I told you, he was Mainpuri, and he used to not show his face to
primarily
anybody.
UP.
No, he was throughout in UP, and he gave an answer. In between, they wanted him to shift to, for very brief period, he has said, he has never indicated when, he was in Madhya Pradesh, East Madhya Pradesh, very brief period. He used to travel, but he was not stationed there. He was stationed in Madhya Pradesh very briefly. And people asked him that, can we move you to Odisha? He said, no, Cuttack, I cannot go. People will identify me. वो तो possible नहीं. So he was not willing to be moved. He was पुरी में बांधने की बात करिए, पुरी में भेजाते. He said, no, I will be identified there. यहाँ पे ठीक है. And then Netaji had visited this area, when this entire area of where he stayed in 1940, 13 and 40. And one of the reason he stayed in this area because it was close to Nepal border. So in one of the letters he mentions that ever since the ghost of the dead has come back to motherland, he has gone outside 25 times. He used to keep going back. If you believe Gumnami Baba, he was going back, he was going to China, he was going to Russia. That's why he was talking about Khrushchev. He was talking about Brezhnev also. Talking to Khrushchev, he said, we used to watch opera with Khrushchev. I watched opera with Khrushchev. So he used to probably make public appearance with him, but probably hidden from others. And then he used to go out and he said, I've got some dummies here who will take my place. So locals do not know. So he would mostly remain concealed. He would not talk to you. He would not give you any handwriting sample also of his own. And he would not talk to you. It's a very secretive man. But people would become suspicious on and off. There will be some incident here and there. And then he would leave. So he ended up, living in many places. So it's not just Faizabad. Faizabad, he came in the end. He was in Ayodhya for 10 years. 74 he came, and 83 to 3 he was there in Ayodhya. Then from Ayodhya he was moved to Faizabad, where he spent last 2 years of his life. So essentially he was not. And when he died, then media coined the name for him Gumnami Baba. He himself was never known by that name. The way people mostly, whoever used to meet him, they used to address him as Bhagwanji. So when we talk among ourselves, so we call him Bhagwanji, and we talk to the people who are in touch with him. They call him Bhagwanji. Bhagwanji is an address, reverend. That's all. It's not a name.
So what about his death then? What happened in?
He's old age.
So where was the cremation?
So he died. So his main followers were Dr. R.P. Mishra.
Okay.
And Dr. Banerji. So they were there. So Banerjee Sahab also arrived. They tried to revive him. So he died peacefully. He read Gita.
So we're talking about 1985,
September 85.
Rajiv Gandhi is now the Prime Minister of the country.
Yeah, he was the Prime Minister of the country. So he was there, and then there was a time, Rajiv Gandhi had gone to Faizabad, and he was giving a lecture, loudspeaker, big sound system. So he could hear, he was just watching. He was hearing, he was sitting and hearing. So
Netaji was there.
This man, Gumnami Baba, who I think is Netaji, and so I'm giving a name Gumnami Baba just to distinguish from the time frame.
Okay.
So when I say Netaji, that means before 45, after Netaji 45, he's Bhagwanji Gumnami Baba. But to me, he's Subhash Bose. So they asked him, what do you think of him? Better than his grandfather. That's all he said about Rajiv. And he died, and they kept body there for 2 or 3 days because they were waiting for people from Calcutta to turn up. They didn't turn up. Then Mishra was trying to.
Did his wife come?
No, she was dead by that time, and there's a different story about it. No, she had not died.
Wife would have died.
No, she would have. She was died in 96. But I think they were not in the loop, and there's a big story, and probably some other will talk about it. Complication. He said, "I never met it. I don't have any wife and a child. We reckon this has been done to keep them out of harm's way,
which is
because
okay.
they were in the territory ruled in control of the Americans and others. So that's what he said. So the Bishra was essentially trying to dispose of his body quickly, and he ensured nobody saw his face. So after 3 days, they quickly went and they cremated him in an area which was a cantonment area. It was illegal. You cannot just one fine morning go to a cantonment area and burn somebody's body.
Oh, not at all.
It was done, and there were cops around, there were police, but they did not touch. They also kept away. And once he died, it's only then that the whole thing blew up. So there was a very silly thing which was said by, and is being said by, repeated by a lot of people, but Subramanian Swamy said it. He said that Gumnami Baba was a story planted by the IB and Nehru has done it. So the problem with the story is, we have done and discussed in detail in our previous book about this issue. The problem with that story is that the bird called Gumnami Baba was born in September 1985. There was no Nehru then. So this story there's no mention of Gumnami Baba before that. One rare, in 77 there was a reference ki Netaji is an Ayodhya, but it's a very small, very local to local paper, like which caters to only Ayodhya. This guy was not on the radar. So for Panditji can tell somebody to plant the story, because in Panditji's time the word Gumnami Baba did not exist. Even Indira Gandhi's time nobody mentioned it. So Gumnami Baba is a story which started in 85.
So basically, if I were to break it down in 10-15 seconds, which is impossible, we're talking about a guy who's coming from a very privileged background, has cleared ICS with just about 4, 5, 6 months of training, leaves that, comes to India, becomes the president of Congress, leaves it, gets arrested in Calcutta, and is part of the greatest escape story of the last 100 years, goes all the way to Germany and then Japan, and is faked. He kind of has a fake death, which is August 1945. And then from there, he moves to Russia. And then from Russia, through the help of the royal family of Nepal, comes to Uttar Pradesh, India, and spends the last 20-30 years of his life here.
This is stranger than any fiction you might have come across.
And we're talking about the most...
I'm a Star Wars fan. I like science fiction. I like...
And I'm forgetting the fact...
I find it incredible, but then this is how it is.
And we're also talking about the James Bond, Ian Fleming inspiration coming from there. And ये...
कहीं से add up नहीं करता.
हाँ, कहीं से add up नहीं करता.
It doesn't make any sense. But the problem, the thing is कि then the first thing, there are two ways.
अभी कहाँ है उनकी वो जो ashes, जो supposed ashes हैं?
मैं बताता हूँ आपको. अभी इसका देखने का बड़ा simple approach है.
Yeah.
The first, when you hear these stories, अभी तो कम से कम I have given them a respectability, so people are willing to listen to.
Right.
So earlier, just for example, I'm giving my own very example that when somebody told me that there is a person, Gumnami Baba or Subhash Bose, I abuse that person in Hindi, which I can't reproduce here because गाली देनी पड़ेगी हिंदी के अंदर. तो मेरा वो स्टैंड था, ठीक है. तो I'm not कि was born to, I have never been to Faizabad all my life. Okay. तो उसके बाद में फिर ये, अब मुझे कोई, I'm not a very religiously inclined person also. You must be able to make out that. I'm not against religion. उस मामले में मैं हिंदू हूँ, आइडेंटिफाई करता हूँ, बट मैं कोई प्रैक्टिसिंग वो नहीं हूँ. बट आई एम नॉट, उसमें ज़्यादा मुझे वो नहीं है. बट ऑफकोर्स आई एम हिंदू. आई एम नॉट अ लेफ्टिस्ट, आई एम नॉट अ एथीस्ट एंड ऑल दैट. बट आई एम नॉट अ रिचुअल वगैरह पे पढ़ता नहीं हूँ. प्रसाद हो गया, प्रसाद खा लूँगा, कहीं बड़े शहर में जाऊँगा, मंदिर में अगर भीड़ नहीं होगी तो दर्शन कर लूँगा. बट अदरवाइज मैं कोई वो नहीं हूँ, मतलब तो मुझे कोई बाबा वो में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है ज़्यादा. स्वामी रामदेव, बिकॉज ही गुड योगा शौक बहुत अच्छा करते हैं, एंड आई लाइक हिम बिकॉज आई मेट स्वामी महाराज वंस. तो वो अलग कहानी है. बट आई डिस्कस नेताजी विद हिम, सो एंड ही वाज वेरी ऑल ईयर्स. द थिंग इज कि अब होता क्या है कि लोग कहते हैं कि यार सुभाष चंद्र बोस तो छिप के रह सकता नहीं वहाँ पे.
इतना बड़ा
मैन, यू डन सो मेनी थिंग्स इन लाइफ, व्हाई कैन ही एंड बीन हाइडिंग इन अ प्लेस कॉल्ड फैजाबाद? तो ही कांट बी नेताजी. So this approach is wrong. Well, the approach is कि a case has been made, a claim has been made कि this man was Netaji. First, I will try and ascertain and find out whether there's any credibility of this about this claim, whether this man could be Netaji or not. Once I have taken a look at things and there's evidence, there's a clear indication this man is not Netaji, I will leave the matter there it is. I don't give a damn why he didn't come out. There are 1,000 Babas roaming around in the streets of there any single day. I don't care what they did and all that. I'm no interest in Babas. But if it is this story, this idea that why it didn't come out will come in the picture only when we have proven that he was Subhash Bose. So first we have to find out whether he could be Netaji or not. Only then we'll ask a question why it didn't come out. But what people do mostly when they hear this whole idea, that this is a preposterous, doesn't make any sense. Why would he not come out? So I don't believe it. I said, don't do that. First, take a look at the evidence, whether he could be Netaji or not. And then you apply your mind, because then it is going to become very engrossing. It's going to be very difficult. But it is difficult, but it's a very, very valid arguments are there. So first of all, why should I believe that he was Subhash Bose? You forget what I was told by the government people. Okay, leave that aside. I'm now talking about what is one can write and academically and legally explain. There are three reasons for which you should believe the Gumnami Baba Netaji link. One is the credible eyewitness account. Justice Mukherjee in his report accepted there is credible eyewitness account evidence that this man is Netaji. The people who had seen him and the people who had seen Netaji and him, they all agree. Okay. So I can add more to the people. I don't even disagree with people sitting in right now who are living in Ayodhya and other places. They have no motive to tell lies. They saw a man who looked like Subhash Bose. Old, that's all. He had become old, he had lost hair and become fatter. But they all say कि जो photo दिखाई देती है सुभाष बोस की वैसा ही एक आदमी हमने देखा. So this is all in agreement with that thing. I don't have to see Netaji to recognize him.
Of course.
I had never seen, मोदी जी तो कर इतनी फोटो देखी है तो जब सामने आया तो देखा मोदी जी खड़े हुए हैं. ऐसे कई लोग देखे मैंने. I was, sometimes you identify. I don't know the name, but one YouTuber who makes very fantastic videos on cameras and all that. I remember I caught a flight from Seattle in America and I think he was there. So I took 1 second to recognize he's the same person, because sometimes by pictures you can recognize people. So people all agree that this man looked like Subhash Bose. Okay, and spoke Bangla. Those who had spoken to him, they said that his accent was very Bengali had different accent. Like I've got a Delhi accent of Hindi. My English is a Delhi accent of Hindi. And this is how people speak English in Delhi. So he had a Calcasian accent of Bengali, which is the people of Calcutta speak that kind of Bengali. So likewise, we got many points. Look, his speech and all that's all matching. So Justice Mukherjee, clarified eyewitness account is credible. This man is Netaji. Then comes the documentary evidence. The letters which were found in the possession. These letters, the correspondence he had with different people, it supports the view that he was Netaji. Okay. So the evidence is clear, eyewitness accounts, and eyewitness account is the most credible account in a court of law, if it is credible. Documentary is also matching. The reason why Justice Mukherjee could not accept in his report this man was Netaji, he said there is no clinching evidence that he was Netaji. That is to say, there is evidence, but it is not clinching, because essentially it happened because the DNA and handwriting reports were negative for this person. Okay. Now this is a spectrum of evidence. Let me not go into details of it. Now here what happened that when I was covering it, even I know what DNA testing is all about. Even I know any person with reasonable intelligence will know if the DNA is not matching, the person cannot be Subhash Bose. Even I would know. अब मैं इतना बेवकूफ़ तो मैं भी नहीं हूँ. अभी लंदन इंग्लैंड की सैर करके आ चुका हूँ. मैं भी थोड़ा सा दुनिया देख कर आया हूँ. मेरे दोस्त हैं DNA एक्सपर्ट. I also know what is a DNA test and all that. So I got this thing from the Mukherjee Commission sources back in 2004 or whatever, 3-4, that they suspected that the tests were fudged by Government of India, because they already had a lot of complaints against government. The government was not cooperating. He said these tests have been fudged. We have suspicions. उस टाइम पे नहीं मालूम था, लेकिन बाद में जाकर के 2010 में Justice Mukherjee was caught on camera, and by mistake it got recorded. The video is available on YouTube. He on Times Now.
If we do a search, is it
available? Because the Times Now का बाइट है. He said कि बंगला में बोला कि I am 100% convinced कि वही सुभाष बोस थे, but I could not prove it. The longer video which I have seen, उसमें एक portion आता है. I'm convinced and I could not prove because of Government of India. So then we met Justice Mukherjee afterwards. So he did not speak to anybody but after 2011ish, he talked to a lot of people, to me, to Chandrachud, to some members of Netaji's family. So he told us very clearly कि इन्होंने फच किया लोगों ने. He said, I got telephone call that DNA has matched. When the report came out, it was something else. So what we have done in the recent few years, which I have conveyed to a lot of people, but just to give evidence, because nobody has had any counter argument to this. Take for example the handwriting test. Suppose there's such an important case. This is what Subhash was. I ask you an expert of handwriting, to do a comparison, give me a report. I would expect you'll give me some details. No? The expert of handwriting, what does it do? Handwriting is brain writing. Your brain will give you signal and your hand will move like this. So that is why they identify. And it's not trying to see the similarity in what they are trying to see. What are the pressure points, strokes? These are things, because people, with passage of time, sometime then you check Gumnami Baba's handwriting with Subhash Bose. Gumnami Baba is 85-year-old and Subhash Chandra Bose is 36-year-old. So obviously, visually, both handwritings have difference because the other person's hand is shaking because of age. But if you see the strokes, the way he's writing C, the way he's writing how he's putting pressure, because these things, the experts say they don't change. After a certain age, your handwriting will not, unless until you have a brain injury, your handwriting will never change. Your hand will start to shake. But your basic things are certain things, and they catch hold of that thing. That's why even court of law, even till today, handwriting is taken as evidence. It may not be everything, but it is evidence on record. In conjunction with other evidence on record, it becomes very clear. So I would expect you to give me some reasons why you think the handwriting is matching or not matching. So for example, and this long story, all of these segments require a full-fledged session on their own. But for example, Dr. S.K. Mandal, Forensic Science Laboratory, Calcutta report, 2-page report. First page, the name and address. Second page, that does not match. The handwriting does not match. So this is
a 2-page report.
Just 2-page report. And he says nothing. He says it does not match. So it gives you, I'm not telling you how he was humiliated before the commission. वो अलग कहानी है. उनकी वहाँ जो बैंड बजाया कमीशन के सामने, उनकी बेइज्जती हुई है बहुत ज़्यादा, पर वो रिकॉर्ड पे नहीं है. तो उसमें उसकी बात, मुखर्जी ने बोला कि तेरी नौकरी चली जाएगी तेरे बारे में अगर मैं लिख दूँ रिपोर्ट में. ऐसी तो घटिया रिपोर्ट लेकर आ रहा है मेरे सामने से. तो अलग कहानी. उसको उन्हें पता कि ये बेचारा कोई गवर्नमेंट का एम्प्लॉई है, उनकी तो कोई दुश्मनी सुभाष बोस से है नहीं, ना इनकी है ना हमारे गोखले साहब की है कोई. दिस नॉट पर्सनली दे आर डूइंग इट. तो गवर्नमेंट का डिसीजन बेचारों को ऑबे करना पड़ता, सरकारी मुलाजिम है. तो वो उसमें उन्होंने, तो मैं आपको एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ कि जैसे फिर हम लोग यूएस में गया तो लोगों ने कहा कि हम यहाँ करवाते हैं टेस्ट. तो मैंने कहा एक्सपर्ट ढूंढो यहाँ पे. तो उन्होंने एक्सपर्ट शॉर्टलिस्ट किए. तो एक कर्ट बैकेट साहब है टेक्सास पे, उनका बैकग्राउंड काफ़ी क्लियर था, अच्छा था, उनको दिया. तो उन्होंने कोई 45-50 पन्ने की रिपोर्ट दी हमारे को, जिसमें डिटेल में बताया और एग्जाम्पल देके समझाया कि ये सुभाष चंद्र बोस है. उनको बताया भी नहीं हमने कर्ट साहब को. We never told him who this was. We just gave him handwriting sample of Gumnami Baba and Subhash Chandra Bose in English. We asked him there are 2 samples, whether you find out the same people or not. And he gave us a detailed report, and he also appeared on television to give bites. So you put before anybody, there is an Indian guy giving you a third-rate report, and he's not willing to defend it before media. And there's an American guy who has no extra grind, who's giving you a detailed, fantastic, first-class report. Which report would you believe? I have come across people who said, no, हम तो भारतीय इंडियन है, हम तो इंडिया की, हम तो बहुत इंडियन है. मैंने कहा बेटा आप तो बहुत इंडियन हो, लेकिन जो तुम्हारा बॉस है, जो तुम्हारे यहाँ साहब बैठे हैं दिल्ली में, उन सारों का खानदान कहाँ जाके देखो. उनका तो खानदान बैठा है अमेरिका में ना. तुम जो बैठ के इंडिया चीखे जा रहे हो, बोले तुम भारतीय बन रहे हो, यहाँ तुम्हारे जितने बाप बैठे हैं सबके बच्चे अमेरिका में बैठे हुए. मैंने कहा उनसे पूछ जाके होम सेक्रेटरी से, पूछ जाके फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी से, पूछ जाके फॉरेन मिनिस्टर से कि वो कंट्री अगर ग्रेट नहीं तो तुम्हारे बच्चे क्या कर रहे हैं वहाँ पे जाकर के. आप हमें बैठ के यहाँ जुमले दे रहे हो हिंदी मीडियम के. सारों खानदान फॉरेन बैठा हुआ है इनका, अमेरिका यूरोप में, सारे लोग वहाँ से माल लेके आते हैं. कैसे मैं तुम्हारी देसी रिपोर्ट को मान लूँ? घटिया रिपोर्ट है तुम्हारी देसी रिपोर्ट. तुम देसी फ़ोन यूज़ करते हो, पास में रखा आईफोन, और बात कर रहे हैं कि हम फॉरेन के माल को नहीं मानते. सारा माल तो तुम उनका यूज़ कर रहे हो. तो इट्स अ वेरी हाई लेवल रिपोर्ट. तो आई गिव यू मल्टीपल रीजन, देयर आर मोर रिपोर्ट्स, देयर आर मोर इशूज़. सो हैंडराइटिंग में हमें बाद में अलग अलग उसमें कहानियाँ हैं. उसमें हमें हुआ है कि बिकॉज द पीपल इन गवर्नमेंट आर नॉट हॉस्टाइल पर्सनली, सो वी गेट इनपुट्स फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट समटाइम्स. सो वी ऑल्सो गॉट एन इनपुट फ्रॉम लैब इन द DNA टेस्ट कि इन्होंने धांधलेबाजी करी है. एंड दे टोल्ड अस कि देयर इज अ थिंग कॉल्ड इलेक्ट्रोफेरोग्राम विच इज द सम काइंड ऑफ अ रॉ डेटा on the basis of which a report of DNA is written. So that is not available here. So you access it under using RTI. So we have tried doing that, but we have not been successful. Government of India is not willing to give that to us. So we have since then we have approached many DNA experts, India, abroad, and at least 2 of them have given us in writing a report, which is a reading of the reports of DNA of Gumnami Baba given by the government labs, and they have found out multiple loopholes in it. So there's something wrong, terrible wrong with these reports. And there's another very good example of telling you directly that there's something very wrong in this case. That months before Gumnami Baba DNA test was undertaken, its outcome was published in a Calcutta newspaper. So even before you do a DNA testing, you know the outcome of it. So what kind of science is that? I don't know. Maybe time travel, yes, but science, it's not feasible. So it's a long story. I mean, this whole idea of DNA testing is long and winding. I'm just giving you the basic crux of it. The DNA test for fudge, handwriting test for fudge. I'm willing to have an open debate on this part. Give me your reports, I'll bring you my reports. एंड आपकी 2 पन्ने की गवर्नमेंट की रिपोर्ट सरकारी 3rd क्लास, मेरी अमेरिकन एक्सपर्ट की 100% टॉप लेवल की रिपोर्ट, आ जा मैदान में, मैं तुम्हारे को सिखाता हूँ उसके बाद में कि रिपोर्टें कौन सी ठीक है. फेक रिपोर्ट्स हैं और फेक रिपोर्ट के बेस पे आप एम्पलीफाई कर रहे हो अपने व्यू. एम्पलीफाई करने वाले आधे बंगाली हैं, वो आपको ये बताते नहीं कि हम लोग कांग्रेसी हैं. आपको लगता है कि सारे बंगाली सुभाष बोस के सपोर्टर हैं. आधे कांग्रेसी हैं, आधे गांधी भक्त हैं, आधे आपके कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी वाले बैठे हैं. उन्हें क्या सुभाष बोस में इंटरेस्ट है? So that is a problem. So this is so Gumnami Baba theory is good. So once you have reached a sort of conclusion in a sense, yes, it is feasible, this man could be Netaji. Then question comes, why he was not coming out? So he would say that my coming out is not in India's national interest. People of country would suffer if my identity is disclosed. Let me be here. I'm working for the country. And and then he did multiple things. For example, so the reason for not coming out were different with different. Different points in time. For example, initial, it is not possible. See, please understand, Subhash Chandra Bose was fighting on the side of the Axis bloc. The people that he was dealing with or in connection with, all of them either died by the end of Second World War or committed suicide. So he was relic of an era which had no space in the new world order post 1945. If you are a supporter of the Axis bloc, you could not become Prime Minister of India. They won't allow you to function. This guy was with Hitler. This guy was with Tojo. Both were war criminals. How can he be Prime Minister of India? So people would go after his life in India and there will be pressure from other countries. Foreign Americans and Britishers won't allow you to function. So he would say, my coming out is not in national interest. And then subsequently he's making these claims that he is active in other theaters of the world, including in Vietnam and all that, giving the others bloody nose. And that these people are looking for me everywhere. So obviously that man cannot come out and what will he do? For example, there's another thing, when Mukherjee government came to power, so people came and people used to come and meet him from Calcutta. And these are revolutionaries and old INA people, whatnot, from the INA intelligence. So they were allowed to take notes of his meetings. So 1 minute we saw in which the question was put to him, why doesn't this government ask you to come out and take your rightful place? His answer is, if I came out, a lot of innocents would die.
Because they will put sanctions.
There will be a lot of problems. Forget sanctions. If Netaji comes out, let's say, in 81, 82, you think everybody will be very happy in our country? All the people in the Congress party will be overjoyed. All the Gandhi bucks will be very happy that Subhash Bose has come out. How would they behave? What did they do in Delhi in 84? The people who talk of non-violence, what did they do in 84? What happened when the tea shook in Delhi? How would the communists will behave in Calcutta? They used to call Netaji Tojo's dog. Tojo's kukur in Bangladesh, they say. So they were calling him Tojo's dog and Tojo's donkey. Do you think they would be very happy to see him back? So not everybody was Netaji supporter in our country.
Most weren't. That's what
Gandhi bucks were not his supporters. The Congress party was not in support and the communists were not in support. What would he do? So his coming out will create problems. He said, my coming out, if I come out, a lot of winners will, because there will be faction. Then Subhash Bose coming out, he will not go and contest election of the Delhi Assembly. No? He would be a top man in whatever capacity. So do you think they will allow him to function? No.
Nothing lesser than the Prime Minister of the country.
So he would not be able to function because the foreign power. Then I would tell this thing to people here, especially here in North. ये तो ऐसे बोलते थे कि वो निकलेंगे प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. तो मुझे यहाँ पे आपको पता है कि वी हैव दिस टेंडेंसी स्पेशली अमंग नॉर्थ इंडियंस कि हम लंबी लंबी डींगे मारते हैं. हमें डींगे मारने की आता है, लंबी लंबी छोड़ना, लंबी जी. हमारे आजकल जैसे अजीब सी बातें हो रही कि डेमोक्रेसी भी हमारे यहाँ से निकली कंट्री के यहाँ से. या तुम फॉलो करते हो वेस्टमिंस्टर का मॉडल, तुम्हारी पार्लियामेंट बनाई है अंग्रेजों ने, A to Z आपका अंग्रेजों का बनाया माल चल रहा है. किस बात की आपकी डेमोक्रेसी आपकी बनी है? लंबी लंबी छोड़ रहे हैं बैठ करके. तो हमारे यहाँ डींगे मारने की आदत है कि साहब ये वो है. उसके गामा पहलवान ने रेलगाड़ी रोक दिया था, याद है आपको? गामा पहलवान का मेरे ख्याल से ओलंपिक में घुसने नहीं दिया था, मेरे ख्याल से वहाँ भी बाहर हो गया था. तो यहाँ लोगों को हाइपर बोल पे जाने की वो अतिशक्ति अलंकार जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं कि लंबी लंबी छोड़ने की आदत है. वो डींगे आते हैं, कहते हैं जी आप कौन है जो सुभाष, अगर भारत में सुभाष बोस निकलते किसकी हिम्मत है जो हमको रोक दे हिंदुस्तानियों को? ऐसे ऐसे मुझे लोग बोलते थे, कौन है, कौन रोक देगा हमको, किसकी हिम्मत है हमें रोक दे.
85 तक तो वी वर वेरी पुअर कंट्री, नॉट दैट.
मैंने उनको बोला तो भाई तो हवा तो कतार ने निकाल दी, तुम हो क्या? तुम तो कतार को प्रेशर तो नहीं झेल सके नुपुर शर्मा वाले केस में, तुम क्या घंटा झेलोगे अमेरिका का प्रेशर?
राइट।
हो कौन तुम? 2 घंटा तो हमारे घर में पानी नहीं आता दिल्ली में आज के ज़माने में, और डींगे हमारे बड़ी बड़ी ये कर देंगे। क्या कर दोगे? हालत क्या थी हमारी 85 से, आपको पता ही है। नरसिम्हा राव से आने से पहले, बिफोर नरसिम्हा राव बिकेम प्राइम मिनिस्टर, वी वर लिविंग इन डार्क एजेस।
Right.
It is because of Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh that the economy got opened. Whatever reason, there was a pressure from abroad, but it is only afterward that we have seen certain signs of, that something has come here. Otherwise, the whole monopoly that you people like you and me can't
License
get.
Raj was
License Raj, we could access anything, no important good. All the people, the rich were having all the goods. They would go abroad, they will bring important, color TV and whatnot. People like us were having no access. Now at least everybody has got the same iPhone. So we had that kind of, we have seen that, you and me, you can recall that era. So we were a different country, and you're talking about somebody in 80s, 70s. India was the poorest country. We still are a poor country. Some people are very rich, so that's why we are the 4th largest economy, but country is a poor country. You can see on the roads. गरीब कंट्री है। घूम फिर के आप जितनी बड़ी बातें करो, लेकिन वही बोलना कि 2000 दूंगा, सारे ब्राइब कर रहे हैं पॉलिटिशियन आपको, 2,000 रुपये के लिए वोट बेचने को तैयार होगा। तो पीपल आर सो पुअर कि दे आर विलिंग टू गिव यू देयर वोट फॉर 2,000 रुपीज। दिस इज टॉकिंग अबाउट दिल्ली के जैसे शहर में आपको 2,000 रुपये का आपको ब्राइब करना पड़ रहा है इनडायरेक्टली लोगों को वोट लेने के लिए। कौन सी रिच कंट्री की बात कर रहे हैं? सम पीपल आर वेरी रिच, नो डाउट, बट ओवरऑल वी आर मच बेटर, बट वी आर अ पुअर कंट्री। दैट यू कैन सी व्हेन यू गो आउट ऑफ सिटी, यू सी हाउ, कभी गाड़ी से बाहर निकल के देखो ना सड़कों में, मालूम चल जाएगा कितने रिच लोग हैं। कंट्री इज नॉट ओवरऑल रिच, बट पीपल आर पुअर।
So I'd like to ask you before we end the statement, how are you taking this forward? Because you're no longer working with Hindustan
No,
Times.
no. Actually, I lost many years ago.
How are you supporting yourself? कैसे
अब लॉन्ग स्टोरी है। सपोर्ट तो यही है भैया, ये करते रहते हैं करके। अब लकीली थोड़ा सा आप लोगों का सपोर्ट मिल रहा है पॉडकास्ट का।
And how do we
किताब
support?
तो थोड़ी दो तीन चीजें आपको करनी है। पहली बात है कि डोंट लेट दिस इशू डाई आउट। सो बाय वाचिंग these kind of shows, you share them with your friends, because the more your views I get on your show, the better would be for me. So first of all, watch this show and share it, and उसमें फ़ायदा होता है कि ज़्यादा लोग देखेंगे. That is my safety also, by the way. My safety is in it because more people know. And second thing, आपको ये काम करना है कि हमारी किताब Bose Deception आप ये पढ़िए. ये लेटेस्ट बुक है. And this book is published by Penguin Random House, world's number one publisher. So you're not doing me, you आपको मैं कोई थर्ड रेट प्रोडक्ट की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. बुक पढ़िए, पढ़ करके and be active on social media, Twitter and Facebook. Comment, follow me. I have very few followers, barely 1 lakh on Twitter. On X, now it's X, and Facebook में तो काफ़ी कम है. And I don't get supporters, and people don't share posts as they should do. If I put a random photograph of mine, I get 1,000 plus like. But if I do something with Subhash post, a very few likes. That's a problem with me. So do that. Be active on social media, because now, because of the efforts that we have put in for many years, right now the interest level is very high in a sense. Just we need to reach the critical mass. I have a plan, and that plan I will not hide because I am not a secret person. I am not a secretive person. Is that we have to create some kind of pressure group of parliamentarians. I think it is feasible mostly in Calcutta, because all said and done, I mean, all that I have a love-hate relationship with my Bengali friends. But at the end of the day, the maximum number of Netaji supporters are in Bengal. All said and done. And I'm also most comfortable there because I keep going to Calcutta. Calcutta is my favorite city. I go there. My friends are there. I have ecosystem there. I can talk to people. So maybe we should try and create an situation whereby 5-6 MP from that state were to go and talk about the issue in Parliament. And once they decide to support, they will support, arrange for things and all that. And then people should buy and read the book, not just कि पढ़ के पैसे लेके लें. किसी ने मुझे बोला, कहता हमारी लाइब्रेरी में रख देंगे. मैंने कहा बेटा लाइब्रेरी में रख किताब चेतन भगत की. मेरी तो किताब लाइब्रेरी में रखेगा, चेतन भगत किताब को खरीदेगा. तो मेरे पास तो सपोर्ट सिस्टम, ऑथर का तो सारा इंपॉर्टेंस किताब पे होता है ना. किताब हमारी आप पढ़ते नहीं हो, हमारे पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो, लेकिन जब खरीदने जाओगे तो आपको लव स्टोरी चाहिए आपको लाइफ में. तो दैट डोंट डू दैट. बाय है ना, बिकॉज अदरवाइज नोबडी विल राइट सच बुक्स इफ यू डोंट बाय सच बुक्स. Nobody would spend their life researching, because this takes a lot of time, effort to write books on history. So then ye kiya, then active on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Another thing, people have invited me, and I've been all over for talks. That is the second best way to understand this case, because right now I'm talking to you, so this is not very coherent in the sense that. But when I'm speak on podium, so I have much more control of system, and it is more coherent because I have visuals to support my. It's like a PowerPoint presentation, audio, video explain. So call me for talks. Me and Chandrachur. We have been everywhere. We go, and Chandrachur was last in IIT Roorkee. I keep going to different places. I was in recently in Malaysia, Bangkok, and I've done a lot of talks in America, East Coast to West Coast. London I've done. So people, India and abroad, anywhere. There may be some countries where I would not like to go because, but mostly I'm open to Europe and other countries, and organize lectures, talks as you, and people enjoy like anything. I mean, they sit for 2 to 3, 4 hours. I'm talking about US. Forget about other countries. So people sit everywhere. They enjoy. Do this, and then I would, of course, I have openly said that now you can donate. There's a UPI. My UPI ID is there in my Twitter profile. Maybe you can put it here. Anuj Dhar at AXL, whatever it is. So I have asked people, give me 10 rupees each. You're so many of you, 1 million people watching my video show. All you have to do, give me 10 rupees. That's all. So I have a limited aim because you need money, because I am not, I don't want to talk about.
Independent researchers, definitely.
No, I have to survive. It's a question of survival. So not only I'm going forward, because I have to worry about my future also, that what will happen to me in future. My Subhash thing might come to an end, 2 years, 3 years. How long will I continue in fighting with the government? So you need money to survive beyond. So I want, I cannot, because if I had done this kind of work on Gandhiji and something else, doors would have opened to me like anything. The government would have given you so many awards and whatnot. But that sort of thing is not coming, and I will not come my way. So maybe small amount of money would be good, 10 rupees. So I make a 10 rupee kind of a thing. Give me 10 bucks, but there should be many of you. So that's it. And organized talks. These are the things you do. 4 or 5 things are fantastic, and share this particular case. This your podcast.
And good. Sir, I'm seeing you wearing the Prime Minister of England's T-shirt, Clement Atley.
This is like be the very famous quote: "Be the change you want to be in the world." What is that means? So this is that the whole fight that we have been carrying on is about 2 things. They're interlinked, but they are thing, and they are there. We have reasons to believe, evidence to show that India became free because of Subhash Bose, not because of Ahimsa. Okay, and we have reasons to believe, and we have the evidence that Netaji did not die and he was in India. So these are the things that we propagate. So I thought that maybe people market everything. They put on T-shirts and all that, so trendy things. So I said, let me put something here. So I did this. This is the picture of Clement Atley, and you have this minimal written here, because minimal is a word that he said. And in one way, in one stroke, he tell you the entire story of the freedom struggle.
Absolutely.
I think this is very to the point, because I've never seen somebody being so clear, level-headed. So this Indian Prime Minister, in one word, he has clarified. So I think this one word it's picked up, because many people have told me it's a very good idea that, the minimal. You just say minimal and everybody knows what it is. I don't have to tell you anything. So I wear it. So I something you believe in, something you should, also be publicly espousing. So I wear this T-shirt. I like this T-shirt actually. So that's how it is.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
It was really, really nice talking to you.
Thank you.
And before we end the podcast, I'm going to once again showcase this book. I request all of my friends, family, all of our viewers to please go ahead and buy this book,
because it is good to read. It's not because
and support.
Yes.
And we're not supporting Mr. Anuj Dhar just for the reason that he's doing this job. We're doing this because Subhash Chandra Bose does deserve the highest possible award, the highest possible position, because the man actually got us our freedom. Today we are a proud Indian. We say that we have the greatest of the Indian army. We are very patriotic. We're able to do a lot of things. We are now 4th largest economy. And according to me, we can only grow once we cross that $10 trillion economy. $5 trillion economy won't give us that bandwidth. So if we're talking about all those things, we must give credit to the man who thought of all these things. And for our tomorrow, he gave his present. So I would like to end it here. Thank you so much, and thank you, sir.
Thank you.